Navy. The two say that they've invited CS Njuguna Ndungu to assist them on how they'll reach an agreement on the issue of the rising cost of living.
We have had very extensive discussions and deliberations on the issues touching on the cost of living and agreed on a number of things, but we have also found need to make further consultations, and that's why we asked for time out to make further consultations.
So the cost of living matter, we said we decided to confront it head on. Okay, that's why we have asked for further consultations.
You see, there are proposals on the table, principally those that touch on taxation, and something like the housing fund, which also falls within that ambit. And it's those issues that we want to engage the National Treasury further on.
We are convening on Wednesday, the 22nd, for 1 hour with Professor Ndungu, and we hope he can help us crack that issue of the cost of living.
This event comes as ODM leader Raila Odinga has maintained that they'll not put a signature to the report if it fails to address the cost of living and audit the 2022 presidential elections.
Sasa tunasema ile timu yetu ambayo wako pale mpaka watoke na matokeo vile Paranya amesema, ambayo inaonyesha vile tutarekebisha mambo ya IEBC. Pili, waongee juu ya mambo ya gharama ya maisha. Tatu, mambo ya sava. Ifanyiwe nini ukaguzi.
The Ministry of Transport has formed an 11-member committee to investigate the state of Kenya Airports Authority-run airports after the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport saga. Transport CS Kipchumba Murkomen says the committee will assess the state of infrastructure and electromechanical facilities. Murkomen further said that the team will also review works undertaken in the last 2 years by contractors and identify immediate remedial measures to be undertaken.
The report of this technical committee will inform further works that we are going to commission. We no longer want to do patching here, patching there. We want to do something comprehensive. And my office, once receives this report, will now sit down and guide the agency through the office of the PS and the board of the agency to carry out a comprehensive renovations in this particular facility.
Health workers have raised an alert over a sharp rise in diabetes cases among pregnant women, which poses a major threat to their unborn babies and mothers. Christian Health Association of Kenya Chair Cyprian Kamau says the cases are rampant among new and young mothers, especially in urban areas. At least 7% of Kenyans are either diabetic or vulnerable to the condition, as the number of patients continues to rise. And in the international scene, the United Nations has called for an independent investigation into mass killings in Burkina Faso this month that left dozens of people dead, including children. Burkina Faso state prosecutors said Monday that more than 70 people had been killed in an attack on November 5th in the town of Zaongo in the central north of the country, and most of them were children and elderly people. The UN Rights Office said it was following the alarming reports of mass killings in the West African country. That's the Newswire. I'm Leah Obaga.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on Spice FM.
Thank you very much, Eric, and it's good to be at the Situation Room.
Always a pleasure coming here. This is the most challenging interview panel in Kenya. You guys are very well informed, and as you can see, Charles today, very philosophical.
To be poor in this country is the greatest sin you can commit, not just from a legal perspective, but from life generally. Yeah. It is very, very skewed.
We've just heard on the floor of Parliament, just most recently, a leader within the ODM saying that Sisi ni ng'ombe is a baba.
Yeah.
Which means that you are willing to be milked dry.
You cannot force me to believe. I'll give way. If it's land that I'm told to return to you, I will, okay? Because the court has said so. But I'll continue saying, watu wamenirusha. That's all that I'm doing.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
The man who looks at a beautiful girl and doesn't talk to her will end up serving lunch at her wedding.
Aya, City, do like that.
My father has killed a mouse. Will he fail to kill a man?
Ameua panya.
Small mammal, big mammal.
Mtu atamshinda.
I mean, I don't understand. How are we comparison? I mean, you kill a mouse.
What do they say?
What they're saying is, my father has killed a mouse. Will he fail to kill a man? Name, surprise. Someone's name.
The name surprised you?
No, the name is surprise.
No, what am I saying? I'm from Nigeria, man. I met somebody called I Believe. So
See?
Your name is I Believe? Yes, my name is I Believe. But that's the short form. I said, excuse me? I said, yes, my name is I Believe. So what's the full name? I believe in the goodness of the
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
If you go out of this country and come back the same person, then you have a problem. Buy land, 1 million. Put it there for 5 years. What's the purpose?
It'll have increased in value.
No, that's the thing. That's darkness. That's an eclipse. You don't do that.
I hope you don't believe that a hustler is a poor person or that all hustlers are poor. I've seen that conversation.
Tell us, who is a hustler?
So who's a hustler? Hustler is a person who is making a living through hard work.
Corruption in Kenya is a political accusation. The people who are actually corrupt are not pointed fingers at.
Kenya is not free. Kenya imeshikwa na mateka. It's under siege.
Have you seen that lodge on Nyeri Road? Very high fence. You can't even
Windows
sleep inside.
up near the ceiling.
Yes. And if you walk there at midnight, you see bats the size of cows.
And when it rains, it doesn't rain on that building.
Yes.
When you're at All Saints and it's raining, it doesn't rain on that building.
The things people will believe.
You tuned into Kenya's biggest conversation. My name is Ramanyang.
Amen. Amen.
So 1 hour is over?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It gets over
Can you imagine
in 20 minutes.
What the big boys have also done?
I'm very proud of myself.
When you understand about partnership in politics, it's like the way marriage is these days. When you're looking for a wife, you're like, maybe you can help me pay for fees as I pay for the rent.
Why should you have a lioness living in your bedroom? I have to tell you a story. I went for a prayer meeting, which was called for the spouses of candidates for senators and governors. And when I got to the gate, the lady who was the secretary, she refused to. She's telling me, no. Leo tunataka wa mama. Leo ni wa mama. I'm telling her, no. She said, no, sio siku yenu. And I thought, there's a problem here, because if it was a man, but this was a lady.
It will be called First Ladies until you change the name.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Good morning and welcome to Thursday. What's happening here and there? We know that there might be a little bit of rain in the city, but it looks like you'll be able to get where you're going through and through without too much of an issue this Thursday morning. Coming off of Thika Superhighway, as is, little bit of traffic as you're getting out into the CBD, but it's all manageable for now. Also looking at some building coming out of Westlands, but again, all the A-OK. On Jogo Road, we're seeing some movement here and there as you get towards the Landis Junction. But, again, still early pickings, slim pickings for now. See what Thursday turns out to be. Let us know what's happening as you get up and about. Spice FM KE on X. Let's talk there and keep things moving this Thursday.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room.
11 minutes after 6 o'clock. Good morning and welcome to Thursday. It's November the 16th and here we are getting into it. Hope you're well. How is everybody doing this morning? Karibuni sana. Welcome, welcome. I'm already receiving questions. Wapi ile mtu wa Kimana? Okay, he's, again, like I said, he'll be away for a couple of days. But, you know, the week will start and he'll be here. But he is fine. A couple of days off to do a few things here and there. But he'll be with us soon, back on the road again. I hope you're all doing well. Karibu sana and welcome. It's a bit of a chilly morning and the rain might just come down, as we are told by the Kenya. But you know, every day, showers here and there. It's possible that it would rain in the highlands and the lowlands and the eastlands and even the westlands. And here we are. So, good morning. Siti, good morning to you.
Lindo.
How are you?
I'm actually well.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and how are you doing?
I'm fine. Since we had coffee a few minutes ago and we told each other how well we are, I've still continued in that same stance.
Your wellness has continued?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm still well. Julie Matheka, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Thank you for having me this time around as a guest host.
It's good to see you on this other side. You've been here before as a guest, and today now we are, running the ropes as a guest host. So, let's go. For the next 4 hours we'll be here with you, so it'll be great. And I'm glad that you took up the challenge to do it.
Challenge accepted.
To have these great conversations with you will be fun. So we can see all of you trickling in this morning. We see you already and we'll talk to you in a minute and say hello. Let's let you know what's going to be happening today. We're getting into it. It is Justice Thursday, so of course a Justice Thursday conversation. I must tell you that even as we start these conversations, it's interesting because as our guest host, Julie is also the program manager at ICJ. That's the International Commission of Jurists.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. And so it's good to have you here on a Justice Thursday where you're wearing that legal hat as well.
Thank you very much. I look forward to bringing that legal hat here.
Let's see what it's like. Let's start from 9 o'clock. What will be happening? The issue of security in Baringo County still continues to, around Baringo area, still continues to be a thing. Banditry and attacks and insecurity in Baringo. Florence Jamatai Sergon is the woman representative in Baringo County and she'll be here with us at 9 o'clock. And let's look at the intrigues of this. Why so long? Why nothing being done to the point whereby we can see this extinguished? And then at 8 a.m., AI, the buzz term, artificial intelligence. Bernard Wanjao is the data center solution specialist with Dell Technologies, Southeast Africa, and he will be here and we'll be looking at AI and machine learning solutions. Things have really changed from time immemorial whereby, a teacher stood before you and taught you. And now we're going to the space whereby a machine has been designed and there are solutions that are being offered at a command. I mean, phenomenal stuff, fascinating stuff. We'll be getting into that at 8 and at 7 o'clock. The Honourable Lady Justice Helen Omondi and Honourable Renee Kitagwa will be with us this morning and we'll be looking at enhancing access to justice in addressing SGBV, which is sexual and gender-based violence. So that's what we'll be talking about today. Getting into it in a short while. And right now we're going to take a break and look at what's happening in the skies. Will it rain today? Will it be dry? Let's take a look and see, and then come back and we'll say hello to you because we can see you've all come in numbers. Good morning. It's 6:15.
If a lion shows you its teeth, it doesn't mean it likes you.
It doesn't mean it likes you. It wants tax. A liar calls as witness one who is either dead or far away. Say it in
Ben low nin inte nin there ayu markati kadikta. You know this character called liar. He has disturbed people. So when you tell him who are your witnesses, he will take you to a place where it is difficult to verify.
For someone like me who sweats a lot, I cannot survive there. Sweating is biblical. Good. And you must blame it on Adam, not me. Because
partly cloudy conditions at 16 in Nairobi this morning. We'll see highs of 23 and a chance of rain early this morning. It's clear at 14 for now in Nakuru with highs of 23 and lows of 14 and 16 degrees and partly cloudy in Nyeri going to highs of 23. Eldoret this morning is clear at 13, highs of 24 and coming down to lows of 13. Mombasa heavy rain at 24, highs of 28 and it's cloudy going into a rainy morning in Malindi currently at 25. We'll see highs of 29. Kisumu this morning is clear at 20, highs of 28. And we're looking into a clear Kakamega at 16 with highs of 27. Out into Kampala, it's also raining quite heavily at 20 with highs of 27. Partly cloudy conditions at 24 in Dar es Salaam with highs of 30. We're looking out into a partly cloudy Mogadishu at 25 with highs of 32 and 11 degrees in Addis Ababa, clear, going to highs of 24 and lows of 10. It's mostly cloudy at 24 in Lagos with highs of 31 and Johannesburg is cloudy at 14 with highs of 27. We're looking into a mostly clear Kinshasa at 24 with highs of 33. Out into Beijing, it's a windy afternoon at 9 degrees, highs of 11 and lows of 0, while Paris is cloudy at 8, London is cloudy at 5, and New York at 10 degrees. Wednesday night is cloudy, coming into Thursday, highs of 12 and lows of 6.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Spice FM.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
6 o'clock, quite a number of you online today. Karibu sana on our live streams. They are up. Spice FM KE, YouTube, Facebook, and on your radio dial, where it is you are around the country. Francis Wangoi says good morning. He's tuned in from Karatina. Don, now you will help us. He says good morning to you, even Edna. And he says a leaking roof in Malawi is an interesting thing. Okay, I will come into that later. Good morning to you, Don. Zeke says good morning. Happy almost Friday. It could be a thing, isn't it? Say hi to Julie, you guys. Julie Matheka is our guest host today. Must say hello to her. By fire, by force. Abi? Kaiser Obed is also tuned in this morning and sending his greetings. Tuned in and locked in as usual. Thank you very, very much. Agri Momanyi says, so we're here back to the drawing board as the cost of living matter is yet to be resolved. Wonderful country. Yes. And says, to Hamia, Tanzania. Allah? Why? Fredo Taylor says, good morning, watching from South Korea. Polycarp Omondi is tuned in and says, the best 4 hours of the day. You're a good man, Polycarp. Wapile Mtua Kimana. Yes, he might just be there. He will be back. Do not worry. Sir George Gashoiri says, good morning, Ndu City. Edna locked in for a great discussion. Yes, Karibu. Desmond says, good morning. And our new guest, yes, that's from Desmond. This diabetes disease needs a quick attention from the health ministry. It does. Remember that it is Diabetes Awareness Month, and quite a number of people are actually suffering from complications of this particular condition. Opanyi Julia says, good morning, Siti Undu, tuned in and from a rainy Mombasa. Yes, it's coming down in sheets this morning. Owen Bosira says, good morning, tuning from New York. This world, we have people who are pathological liars. Is it so? They lie so much to the point that they believe that their lies are true. And he says Kenya is a den of thieves. My goodness. Why now? Good morning to Julie, says Sir George Gashoiri. Makayo Keo says good morning as well. Victoria Nyandosi says bonjour, good people. Bonjour, bonjour. Tony Mohoho says tune in from Muthiga. Good morning, beautiful folks. Have a good one. Thank you to you too, Akiki. Arthur Wanjama says hello, beautiful Julie. If you see me in your DM, don't ignore. Anthony Onyango says good morning from Nyamisongo. Nyanisiongo. Okay. Lillian Rotich says good morning, Indusiti, tuning in from Bomet. Shout out to Eddie. Eddie, shout out to you. Thank you. Kivit's turned in from Manzoni, and Abdul Kadir Sheikh says good morning, tuned in from Canada in Kitchener. Zachary Odira says good morning, guys, locked in from Mombasa. Quite a number of you that we're even looking for. And Gore, I know you're tuned in from those beautiful hills of Trans Nzoia and Saboti, and I know that Wairimo is in the Bay Area in California, probably trying to go to bed at some point, but tuned into the Situation Room this morning. We see you guys. Mwenda Mpole, where are you? Good morning. Joyce Alamu, Linda Gola, all of you, we see you this morning. Karibuni and welcome as we get into it. All right, let's kick it off. CT Proverbs still coming in from the DRC.
You inherit from the dead, not the sick. Sorry. Our proverbs for this week come from the country of DRC.
You see,
there's so much.
The leave us hanging. We are used to things a certain way.
The Democratic Republic of Congo. Yes. A beautiful country.
It is.
With beautiful people. Okay. So much wealth, so much tribulation, so much turbulence. A beautiful country nonetheless. Such beautiful music. Repeat again. Such wonderful people. But here we are. Right. The proverb for today: you inherit from the dead, not the sick.
That's true. When the person is sick, they've not gone yet, eh? Expecting the person to croak it, he's like,
when someone is unwell, the likelihood is that they will get better. Okay? When they're dead, the likelihood of resurrecting is nil.
That is such an interesting proverb. It's so dark in a way, because for the gift to come your way, unfortunately, a tragedy must occur.
Yes. The positive perspective you need to have on death is that it is the flip side of life. It doesn't exist in the absence of life. And it doesn't exist in the absence of new life.
Indeed.
Because there'll be a death, but there'll be a birth. So there's always a renewal taking place. And if you take the view that if you want to be philosophical about it and say, well, talk about cycle of life, it is impossible to talk about a cycle of life and talk about the renewal of life without talking about the extinguishing of life, because it ends at some point.
It does.
The only sure thing about life, they say, is death.
Yes, the sure thing about being alive is that you will die at some point.
That's it.
Okay. And then when you think about it, then you think of the things of this world that people focus on, most of the material things. And a Latin phrase comes to mind: sic transit gloria mundi. So passes the glory of this world.
Of this world.
Yes. And you with it, of course.
This world is not my home.
That one.
I'm just a passing through.
That one. Okay. Someone called it Jim Reeves.
Yeah, he did sing that song. Didn't he?
He did.
Okay, let's look at the headlines. Apparently, there's turbulence. This plane is hitting some turbulence. And which plane are we talking about? It's the writing of the final report by the Ruto and Raila teams. They fly into headwinds after the groups clashed over proposals to cut the cost of living, especially fuel-related taxes and the housing levy, with some Azimio members staging a walkout as the committee took a break for further consultations. Imagine. Turbulence, walkout things. We'll look at that later. Private guards minimum pay now set at 30,000 shillings. If you hire a private guard who, number one, has not been registered, and number two, that you're not paying XXX, you could actually pay a fine for that. And the fine is pretty hefty. So there's a lot of stuff happening there in terms of how much more money you've got to pay.
This is very good news.
It's good, Cindy.
I think this is brilliant.
I applaud it completely. Yes.
Okay. when I tell you the story, you can explain the reason for your applause.
I will explain.
Fantastic. NCPB, that's the National Cereals and Produce Board, has started buying maize from farmers.
How much?
Now, they've not told us whether they've actually opened the doors to the barn, because remember, for the longest time the doors have been closed and they've not been taking anything. So essentially Kenya had no reserves, nothing. So now they've started buying, and it was said that it was 4,000 shillings. And remember, the farmers had said, I laugh in the face of 4,000 shillings. And they said, go and give somebody else. It's like we're basically giving, we've said, we planted the maize on our farms and we have now given it to you at 4,000 shillings. So they had said no. But it would appear as though there's been a softening somewhere, and now the board is buying this maize to now store it away. So we shall wait and we shall see. We'll look at the meat of some of these stories later, but let me tell you what's on the front page of some of the stories on The Nation. That still, again, Raila move jolts bipartisan talks. All right. Again, we're looking at this security guards that must earn the minimum 30,000 shillings. Some people are about to be in a bit of a mess with that. Now, these people for this fuel and the KRA and the lady, now people are still saying they've never met the other person. And it's just looking a little bit messier as the day goes by. But see, we have other things to look at, like how KUPPET tells TSC. Now you wonder who KUPPET is. The Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education Teachers have now told the TSC, you guys are serious about education come 2024? We are asking you in our sector to hire 40,000 teachers. Not hire 40,000 teachers and then spread them across the country. For our sector, we need 40,000 teachers if we're going to be serious about this thing. So let's look at that. They're saying, you know what? Failure to make them permanent employees before their contracts end in January could foment a crisis. And a crisis is what you're staring down the barrel of, they say. More meat of those stories coming up in a bit. Kenya's shillings free fall, inflating foreign debt by 3 billion shillings daily. Are you understanding? Every day, because of the free fall of the Kenya shilling, according to the frontal page of the Business Daily, you're having to pay an extra 3 billion shillings because of the loss in that forex
3 billion shillings daily?
Yes, please. Every single day, on top of that debt,
so it
3
means
billion.
This debt we will never actually...
We'll never finish paying it.
We'll never finish paying it.
No.
And that is what has triggered the supplementary budget with a view to revise the allocation, not on premium, but on interest.
Yeah, it's interest.
So at what point do we say enough is enough? Like, when will this end?
It won't.
Actually, the only way it will end is if we indicate in the strongest possible terms to those who keep making these silly decisions that we have had enough of this nonsense. Because it's a ping-pong game. People talk about this matter of finance as though it's very complicated. It actually isn't. You see, you borrow, you pay. Whoever lends you the money has a premium. It's called interest that they charge you. You go and borrow in a foreign currency called a dollar. And when you exchange it to a shilling, it is X. Now, if that X keeps increasing, then it means what you're going to pay continues increasing.
Yeah, you have to spend more shilling to buy the dollar.
Yes.
Because you're not going to say, okay, this is what we've gathered. You have to actually buy the currency to repay the folks who lent it to you in that currency in the first place.
Yes.
They're expecting the one that they gave you to come back to them.
Yes.
And if it is free falling on this side and you have to actually collect more shilling in order to buy the dollar, what do you think is going to happen if the rates are changing on a daily basis?
Again, simple economics. Part of the reason how it is you acquire these foreign exchanges if you are a net exporter. Okay? Because then you're paid in foreign exchange.
Yeah.
Now, we show our foreign exchange reserves, if we have any, by remittances from Kenyans who live abroad.
The diaspora, yeah.
That really is a big thing. But if you look at then the management of all these things and how it is being explained to us, it doesn't make sense, because the borrowing simply means that you are going to increase that debt that you're talking about again, because this borrowing is again in some foreign denomination.
Exactly.
Yes.
And at what point do we start having conversations around stabilizing the Kenya shilling against the dollar?
Yes, because we can.
Now.
We can have that conversation
We
now.
can. We can go beyond having the conversation. We can actually stabilize it.
And do something about it.
Yes.
Should you give us headlines? Then we take a break and look at traffic.
Headlines. Okay. Have we looked at Business Daily?
Yes, that's why we're talking about this free fall of the Kenya. The free fall of the Kenya shilling, why we're paying 3 billion shillings every day.
Okay, let me look at the East African.
Okay.
Have you said something?
She's going to say something. Do you have this one?
Which one? No, I don't. Thought I'd escape this. Why do you think I avoided it?
I know what you're doing. I see you from far.
In the right-hand corner in teal green, this is the star. There's a gentleman here whom we are quite familiar with. He's called Chebukati. He says, no regrets. That's the title. Technology can't cure impunity in Kenyan elections. He says, this is true. It's true because technology has to be managed by human beings.
Yeah.
Okay? And technology doesn't have impunity. It just obeys instructions. So, simple. Then, KCS's Tom, Kisii lawmakers claim unjust profiling. This is a profiling that has been there and is as old as time.
Of Kisii's?
With exam cheating. I'm being specific because that's what this report is all about. Something happened in Nyamira. Every year there's something happening somewhere. Now, I agree with them that it is unfair because cheating takes place all over the country.
Yep.
Okay? But there's always a question of who has the lion's share. Now, I am not saying that it comes from a specific place, but there are people who take the lion's share when it comes to being reported as having been involved in cheating.
In cheating in exams.
Whether they actually do or not is a completely different matter, but it is spoken of as though they are. Okay? 9 more killed in floods as floods wreak havoc in counties. Did we not tell these guys to leave a warn?
Yeah, we
Before or
did.
after it became a fine to warn people about floods coming?
No, we were just contributing because long before all these things happened, we were talking about El Nino.
Yeah.
And then we brought experts to explain. We were saying, this El Nino is not what you people think. And the fact that it doesn't rain doesn't mean it won't rain.
And now here it is.
Yes, so even if we leave El Nino aside, we have rainy seasons. It's raining. The question was, are we prepared for the rains? Forget El Nino. And we were told, yes, we are prepared. The county informed us they were prepared. We even had the expert who's in charge of that docket said they're prepared. We will see. But from the cursory look we've given this matter, they were not prepared.
I don't think we are prepared because you can see from all over the country that various things are happening. You have people who have lost lives, people who have lost their property, livestock, which has actually been swept away by the rains. I think all of you saw the viral video where cows are actually being swept away by the floods.
Yeah.
I don't think we were prepared to manage this situation yet again. Yet for over a year now, we knew that this is something we were to expect.
Yes, we did. In fact, what we find alarming is that the president seemed to have been very prophetic about it when he said he wants to build dams. Now, we didn't need to build 100. 100 is a bit many to build at a go. But if there was sufficient attempt to ensure that we did put up certain structures that help allay some of the damage that is caused by very heavy rains, our story would have been different.
Yeah.
That we are witnessing what we're witnessing is proof that what was supposed to have been done was not done. That's really it.
It's incredible because it's almost as though it's almost as though the day that the president actually said, who is God? And there's no more El Nino, everybody put down any working tools that they had at that moment, any plans that they had put in place because hey, goodness. Because the president said that there's no more El Ninos. Everybody said, okay, it's over. Then we just continue our merry way.
Since we brought God into the conversation, let me add my 2 cents. God didn't tell me this, but since we're all interpreting God, then God spoke and the heavens opened.
And clearly when it rains, it pours. Because everything in the country has gone south.
Has it rained?
I'm telling you. And it's not about to stop.
No, it's not.
On that note, let's take a break and look at what's going on with the roads this morning in terms of traffic, Abby. And then we'll come back and look at these stories in detail because I know there are some that are popping off right now. And then what exactly it does then mean as we go forward. It's 25 minutes to 7 o'clock looking at the stories making headlines this morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Revenge is for children. It's for kids. When you grow up, you realize the best revenge you can take on somebody is to ignore them.
I'm just new in politics. It is not everybody's cup of tea. That's why some people come in one term and that's it for them.
Political parties in this country do not have ideologies, whether luring or otherwise.
That is the effect of corruption. Any time an offense occurs anywhere in the country, it is the job of the Inspector General to look into it. Whether it's corruption, whether it's murder, whether it's petty, that is his job.
If we have chosen to be a corrupt nation, then we produce corrupt leaders. Everything then becomes chaotic that you cannot be able to change a nation.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Okay, so actually not much happening on the roads this morning. I guess folks are still waiting to see, is it going to rain? Are we peeping out? Those who've left have probably already gotten where they're going today. Let's see what happens as we get into the morning. But right now, really, very little happening in terms of traffic. We're seeing just a smidgen of it as you're coming off a Fika Superhighway. And then also, as you're getting into the city, coming in from Langata Road, you should be fine. Gong Road also not giving, at least not at this point. It might just get a little bit sticky as you're coming off of the Eastern Bypass. Outer Ring, some traffic there as you're going out, touching on Manyanja, Kangunda Road, a little bit of it here and there. Juja Road also looks busy. And then this area coming out of Carrier Core is also looking just a bit busy as well. All right, let's talk in a bit, getting closer to 7 and then see what it looks like then. We'll talk on Spice FM KE on X.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
All right.
94.4 Spice FM.
This morning.
I think the story that is popping out is on page 5 of the Standard, which speaks to Murkomen Form's team to assess airports after outcry. A committee to submit an interim report within 14 days and the final report within 28 days. Minister inspects JKA after social media rage over the leaking roofs. I would imagine that this would go without saying that after the airport has been deemed not fit for service, particularly since it's leaking, that the people in the management of said airport would then find out what has happened. Like, should we form committees on every single thing? Because when I hear the word committee, I hear per diem, sitting allowances, trips and retreats to various parts of the country to retreat and write the report. But it's part and parcel of the work. So why do we ensure that every single thing forms a committee or a task force?
Fix the roof and then make sure that you maintain a position of it being fixed. That's it. I don't understand why. What report? The roof was leaking. Do you need 14 days or 28 days to then find out why it was leaking? No. You need a guy who's in the roof to say, okay, there's a leak here and this is what caused it. Can we fix it? And then what can we do to make sure it doesn't happen again? End of story. What are we doing?
No.
Sir?
There's a setup called Kenya Airports Authority. They have a huge office. When you enter the airport, you see it.
Yes.
That's their job.
That's why they're there every day.
That's their job. Don't need the committee. But anyway, I am delighted that the minister has done this. He keeps giving us insights into how he thinks and how he looks at life. And we will question how it is he looks at life and how useful that look of his is when it comes to getting things done. Why has the Kenya Airports Authority not been taken to task?
I don't understand.
There is a department that deals with maintenance and such things. What on earth have they been doing? I know these are people who are paid with taxpayers' money to do this very same thing. The airport earns money every single day. That authority manages that money. That money is intended, yes, to go towards government, blah, 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 but it's also intended to ensure that that airport is as swanky and in the state that it ought to be. That's an international airport. One of the biggest hub, if not, in this particular continent.
So these people, because I've seen it, I think I've even seen it, their maintenance issue areas within the airport. So the people who deal with maintenance, what then do they do?
They exist, by the way. Huh?
Yes, they do. What then do they do? What do they do? Because and then why does it have to be that it is? Because this is not a drip drop situation that we saw at the airport. It was raining inside the airport.
Yes.
That did not start on one day. No, it's been there.
The airport has been leaking for some time.
And nobody did anything about it. And then suddenly there's a task force and there's a committee who have 14 days and then 28 days and then there will be a report. And then?
Well, no, it didn't stop there. The minister even went to the airport and was staring at the roof. that usually is a sign that something is going to be done. Okay, so please take heart. Do not feel that nothing is being done. The minister went there in person.
I think for me, it's the general state of what's happening in our airports that is a bit concerning. Like now we have the roof leaking. The other day we were discussing KRA and its customs issues. I feel like right now JKA is becoming just a place where it gets featured in bad highlights. There's no good thing coming out of JKIA. We need good news coming out of our international airport. Power outages. How can you have a power outage at an international airport? Wasn't the last KAA executive director sacked because of the issue of power in the last blackout? So why is it recurring again? Shouldn't it have been fixed? So I feel like the management of airports really needs to be called into question because it paints the country in bad light. You cannot have tourists coming in for the first time in our country and they find a leaking roof and a dark space.
Actually, it's not finding a leaking roof. You're being rained on and you're inside. You're inside the terminal.
For real. Look, I think that this is it. We wrap a lot of things in bureaucracy that absolutely it is unnecessary. That here you are, okay, so like you said, so a task force will sit now today, they're running around this morning. Let's sit, create a boardroom. We must serve tea at 10:30 kind of thing. So let's find out what happened. Come on. It's a leaking roof. Fix the thing and then make sure that the folks who are supposed to be responsible for maintenance are doing their job. If they're not, get rid of them and get somebody else to do it. Yeah. This for me is very cut and dry. I don't know why we want to.
What is it about this Kenyan space where everything requires a committee in order to be solved, and yet you have people who are employed to do precisely the thing you're asking the committee to do?
Yeah.
And they're paid.
Maybe because if you say task force and committee, it gives an air like
no,
you
it doesn't
are actually
give
working.
Anything. It just tells us that someone doesn't seem to know what they're doing. That is what it gives the impression. But what are you setting a task force for?
Do you need specific terms of reference to guide you on how to do your work?
I mean, surely. I thought that's why you got the job in the first place.
Yeah. But I wonder, it's very interesting to me that this terminal where it was raining this way, people pass through here, that area, every single day. There are clients who are leaving, there are clients who are coming, there are staff who are working. One of the luggage weighing whatever was drenched in water. So my question is, the people who saw it every day, what is the thinking? What's the thinking? Our problem is actually sometimes, will be saying, it's not a money issue.
No.
It's bad manners. It's bad behavior. We just don't want to do the right thing.
Do think about it for a single second. Yeah? Who should have spoken on this matter of the leaking roof? Is it the minister or is it the MD of Kenya Airports Authority?
It's not the minister, if you ask me.
Yes. Yeah. He's way above.
Yeah.
It is not the minister's purview to talk about airports. That's actually not his job. Not really. His docket includes airports, the port, the railway, all these things. And all these institutions have some people who head them. It is them who should be speaking on these matters and explaining to us.
But coming back to what Ndu was saying, I think the problem that sometimes ails Kenyans is the philosophy of not my monkey, not my business. Like when you see something happening and it's not part of your job, because I'm assuming that the ticketing persons who are sitting there and they can tell that the roof is leaking are like, that is not our job. Our job is to ensure you get on the plane and your luggage is checked in. And they report it maybe, but they don't follow up because it's not part of their mandate. So how do we get to a point where it's a collective effort that every single person working in an institution can say, there is a problem here, and if you don't take it up and I've reported to my superior, I'll go all the way to the MD's office and raise it, because at the end of the day, when this thing starts raining the way it has rained, I have a feeling all those equipment that are down there have been ruined.
Been damaged.
Yes. No.
So the belt has been ruined.
They've been damaged.
They won't work.
And
how much more have we
And
incurred?
along that strip, there are also computers. There are all these gadgets that they use, but ask yourself the simple question. What is it that gets people to the state where they no longer give a hoot?
Like, what you'll do, you'll come, it's raining this morning. This is where I'm supposed to sit. Okay, we'll just leave this one. I will move to the next one where there is no rain. As in, you become so lackadaisical.
How do people get to that? You see, if you look at the process in our country, it isn't as though these things are not discussed at management. It is discussed. It isn't as though money is not allocated. Money is allocated. That's where now the saga begins. Because the money is allocated and you'll be told it's been spent. And you'll even find a few people tinkering with nails and hammers at some point. And then it rains. And you wonder, what on earth are those people doing there? Did they not fix this thing?
Yeah.
Why are we taking this thing far? Same minister is in charge of roads, is he not?
Yes.
Okay. This road in front of our building here, okay? They said it would take 2 weeks to fix,
No, they said it would take 1 week.
Precisely.
Specifically, I remember because I saw the notice, from 4th, it will be done on the 11th.
Precisely. 2 weeks later, where are we? That hole is now full of water. And the likelihood of this thing being finished before the end of December is slim. So it means the commute and everything around there has completely been disrupted. And you wonder why they had to do this thing now, when we know the rainy season is around the corner, number one. Two, deceleration, acceleration lane should have been put up when they were putting the expressway and all the thingamajigs that went with it. This is something that I would have assumed is common sense.
You would assume.
But also
I have to assume.
our country is plagued with afterthought.
Yes.
Like the oops mentality, like, oh, we ought to have fixed that. We ought to have done that. Now let's do it. The question about timing, resources, doesn't come into play. We're going to do it now. Public participation on whether we need to do it now. Consultation with relevant departments, including Met. Did it happen? No one knows. But yeah, now you have a gaping hole in front of your offices.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so now, security guards. Okay? 30,000 shillings is what you're being told. If you're going to hire, the salary increment in part of the wider reforms in the sector is to cater for guards' welfare. Private security guards now have a reason to smile after the government set their minimum gross pay at 30,000 shillings a month. This thing that you used to do where you say, I'm hiring a firm, I can pay somebody 6,000 shillings to guard an entire estate or to guard a compound or to guard a building. Sorry, it's not going to happen anymore. It comes as a major boost to at least 1 million guards employed by 2,000 security firms. In a Gazette notice published by the Private Security Regulatory Authority, any employer who will fail to adhere to this directive will be fined 2 million shillings, be imprisoned or be subjected to both. The new salary includes a basic pay of 18,000 shillings, home allowance of 2,850 and an overtime allowance of 8,157. The minimum statutory deductions to include the NSSF, which is the National Social Security Fund, at 1,080, and the Social Health Insurance Fund of 825. Pay as you earn will come to 1,229, and the affordable housing levy, of course, is 450 shillings. This is the minimum amount landing in the private security guard's bank account every month, and that should be 26,450. So after all the deductions are made from 30,000 shillings, private security guards should take home this amount. They've also issued minimum qualifications for private security guards. They should hold a valid training certificate from an accredited institution and be licensed in line with the Private Security Regulation Act. It's a good thing, you said, CT.
It is. You see, if you look at the wages people are paid and you compare it with the responsibility, not the task, the responsibility that is placed on their shoulders, you will find that the cadre of individuals who perhaps are most disadvantaged have been these guards. They are paid poorly, they're never paid on time, and yet they are expected to actually provide security. If you look at the manner in which they've been treated and what they've been paid, essentially what you've been doing is fomenting insecurity. You are paying someone 10,000, 7,000 shillings a month. They're supposed to come to work every morning.
Yes, or nights.
Yes, you delay paying them. Yet they have the same needs as you.
And who are the people when something should go bust? Who are the people who get arrested first?
It is them.
It's them, isn't it?
It is them.
Yeah.
It is them.
Yeah.
If you look at most people who are security guards, you'll find them looking very slim and trim and fit. It's not as though they go around running every morning and exercise and go to the gym. They do not live well. Their lives are fairly miserable. And that's a job someone takes when they don't have very many options.
I think for me, I just look at it as this is dignifying people, because a take home of 7,000 in this current economy is not a dignified life. And for the kind of tasks that they have, the kind of hours they work, the kind of circumstances some of them work in, I mean, some of them actually guard premises that do not have even a shelter for them to shield themselves. So you really put people under a lot of strain and you don't compensate them nearly enough. 30,000 is a good step, and I'm really hoping that this is just the beginning, because they have noted that there is career progression whereby some of them will be able to grow into the career, getting promotions and whatnot. But this is actually a step in the right direction, because you do give a lot of mandate and power to security guards. They do guard some of the banks, actually. Some banks, some schools. I think we entrust security guards with some of our most personal and dear issues, our homes, our children. So how can we allow them to have a take-home of 7,000?
This is true.
Yeah.
The other side is that it's come to... with this then brings the reality that the premium that is charged to clients by these security firms will inadvertently rise. Because they say that they pay their guards if you've got 150 or 200 guards on staff, and you used to pay them 10,000 shillings, for example, and now that you're asking it's now a requirement that you pay a minimum of 30, that your 100 guards, your wage bill now increases by 2 million shillings per month. All right?
There is
that is going to be transferred to your client.
That's fine.
Yeah.
That is fine.
Because if you were charging a group, for example, a certain amount per month, and now you need to take on this burden, as it were, it is the end user now who will have to add on to their premiums.
But consider, why do you seek to disadvantage someone by preferring an argument that the cost will rise? Of course it will rise. Why is it that you find people with hefty pay slips which indicate they were, and it's supposed to be in recognition of their contribution and the significance of that contribution? So if we're saying that this is insignificant, it's the same thinking that goes into the employment of house help. People pay house help slave salaries. I mean, you wonder what that money is supposed to be for. And yet you look at the responsibility that a house help has. This is a person that looks after your life.
Yeah. That without them in that position, you would not be able to leave.
You would have to do exactly what they are doing.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay. Now, if you were doing it, what price would you pay?
Exactly.
Yourself. I mean, there's an entire thinking that justifies certain things that have been wrong for the very, very longest time. But it's something that comes to mind as I was looking at this screen. Are we looking at another fuel shortage in the country? I mean, I'm asking the question.
How?
You see,
I thought we have too much fuel.
We even have fuel being brought in, sent back. People who don't know 17 billion.
There's a reason why about that specific question. You see, if there is enough fuel to meet our needs and the cost keeps going up, who do you think is going to offtake that fuel? Who is going to buy it? People are already adjusting the way they go about consuming fuel.
Already we have a dip in,
Yes, and the dip
fuel purchase.
Can you imagine what happens when people wrap their heads around this? Because we all live in communities. You may think so, but we do. Now, what if communities wrap their heads around this and say, folks, perhaps what we've been doing is not the best way of going about this. Let's rearrange it. What do you think is going to happen to the oil industry? Because the buying of fuel and the selling of it is based on certain numbers.
You have to have a certain threshold met in order for the supply to be kept at this particular point.
For it to make sense. Okay, now, if that thinking and interference has run on that thinking with people rearranging and reorganizing themselves, what do you think is going to happen?
There's going to be a reduction in supply.
There's going to be a reduction in consumption. There's going to be a reduction on taxes. There's going to be a reduction on revenue collected. The ripple effect is profound.
It's already here now. Is that not what the Business Daily is saying this morning? Drop in fuel and, interestingly enough, beer usage to deny the state 133 billion shillings. Because people are not buying it.
The flip side would be, because now you're catering to a smaller number, you would have to increase to ensure that the smaller number can actually offset the amount that you used to get.
Is this not the same thinking that this government has had with regards to taxes, isn't it? And we're already seeing how that is working out, aren't we?
Yes.
Now, fuel is something you can't control how I consume fuel. I decide. Now, if I decide to walk, what are you going to do?
You can't do anything.
You can't. And actually, a lot of people are turning to that. I was in a space where some people say that the only time they're using their vehicles is to go to work, and it's because they have to use their vehicles to go to work. On the weekends, they are sitting at home and enjoying the comfort of their sofa sets because going out into the streets has now become expensive.
And carpooling has made a comeback, and that's another
has
thing.
Made a comeback,
yeah, that's what we're looking
Believe
at.
me, cycle riding is also going to come in.
It will.
You know, this sort of situation often brings about a complete rethink of how people live. And unfortunately, a rethink that is fueled by rising costs will mean the revenue that is associated with this cost is going to dip, and it's going to dip significantly.
It is. Okay, let's look at this education story. It's important. Kupet wants the state to review contracts for 40,000 interns. They are interns. Kupet is saying, can you please make them teachers? Let's give them contracts so that they're actual functioning teachers and that we can actually make use of them. If not, come January, we will have a crisis because we just don't have enough. The Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education Teachers, KUPPET, wants the government to address several issues affecting junior schools before the second-class transitions in January to avert a crisis. Now, remember what happened is that we had the first cohort coming into CBC Junior School as grade 7. Now, grade 7s will go to grade 8 in January, and the current grade 6s who sat the KEPSEA in November this month, or rather end of October, will now go to grade 7. Now, what Kupet is saying, we do not have enough teachers who are trained to teach at this level. You have 40,000 interns who do not have the proper who may have the proper certification, but you've not given them contracts. So they cannot teach at that level, according to you, the TSC, who has set this standard in the first place. So they're saying there are 40,000 intern teachers, and the implementation of the CBC. Those are some of the things that need to be addressed. They addressed journalists at the sidelines of the KUPPET National Executive Board meeting at a Nairobi hotel yesterday. Secretary General Akelo Misori demanded the immediate conversion to permanent and pensionable terms for the interns who were teaching in junior schools. All right. The teachers were contracted to serve a year during recruitment drives in January, July, and September. And he said failure to convert them to permanent and pensionable terms before their contracts expire in January could destabilize the implementation of CBC when the pioneer class progresses to grade 8. Remember, these are the ones who started as grade 4 when CBC was implemented in 2019. He went on to state that it's not just about fulfilling contracts, it's also about safeguarding the educational system from disruptions. These intern teachers play a crucial role in the CBC transition, and stabilizing their status could have severe repercussions, or rather not stabilizing their status could have severe repercussions on the next phase of grade 8. So I wonder, what would it take for TSC to make sure that these interns are actually in a status where they can be comfortable teaching? It's hard, small, Abby.
Yes, that it most certainly is.
Why can't it just be sorted out? I don't understand. You have them there for a year. They've already proven to you that they have the wherewithal to then be able to teach at this level. Make them teachers.
If you sort it out, there will be no problem for you to whine about.
Hey,
what is the challenge actually? Because I'm not understanding why they are not being made into permanent. Is there a budget issue? Has TSC said there's a budget issue that they cannot afford to absorb all the 40,000?
Last week, Nancy Macharia told us that they did not have money, but then now they've been given money. And there's been but now she actually said very clearly that money has been provided for the employment of teachers. So if you ask me, rather than look for a new batch from outside, you have these 40,000 here who are waiting to get onto the next level. Please give them.
And they're tested, and they've been tested already. They've been doing
They've taught for a year.
Yeah, but
they've taught for a year.
Conversation that is politically motivated will come in. It's called employment.
Okay. It's the top of the hour. It's 7 o'clock. Things that need to be sorted out need sorting out.
Spice up your life.
Good morning. This is the news wire. I'm Leah Obaga. Muslims for Human Rights have accused the Kenya Kwanza government of promoting impunity, saying state corporations ignored court orders over the 17 billion oil saga. And Nyeri Njoroge, who is at the center of the saga, had on November 8th obtained orders from the Mombasa High Court. This event comes as Energy CS Davis Chirchir is now alleging that Nyeri presented forged documents with which she wanted to lay claim to 93,000 metric tons of diesel from Saudi Arabia. The CS dismissed claims by the businesswoman that she's the bona fide importer of the cargo, saying her application for an oil importation license was rejected by EPRA after she failed to meet the minimum threshold to secure the import license. Chirchir said the true position is that the oil consignment was imported by Galana. The Ministry of Transport has formed an 11-member committee to investigate the state of Kenya Airports Authority run airports after the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport saga. Transport CS Kipchumba Murkomen says the committee will assess the state of infrastructure and electromechanical facilities.
The report of this technical committee, will inform further works that we are going to commission. We no longer want to do patching here, patching there. We want to do something comprehensive. And my office, once receives this report, will now sit down and guide the agency through the office of the PS and the board of the agency to carry out a comprehensive renovations in this particular facility.
The process of writing the final report by the National Dialogue Committee has hit a snag after both parties failed to reach an agreement on the issue of the rising cost of living. Co-chairs Kimani Ichung'wah and Kalonzo Musyoka say that they are still deliberating on matters of increased taxes and the housing levy.
We have had very extensive discussions and deliberations on the issues touching on the cost of living and agreed on a number of things, but we have also found need to make further consultations, and that's why we asked for time out to make further consultations.
So the cost of living matter, we said we decided to confront it head on. Okay, that's why we have asked for further consultations.
This event comes as ODM leader Raila Odinga has maintained that they'll not put a signature to the report if it fails to address the cost of living and audit the 2022 presidential elections.
Sasa tunasema ile timu yetu ambayo wako pale mpaka watoke na matokeo vile Paranya amesema, ambayo inaonyesha vile tutarekebisha mambo ya IEBC. Pili, waongee juu ya mambo ya gharama ya maisha. Tatu, mambo ya sava. Ifanyiwe nini ukaguzi.
Over 15 Meru residents have filed a petition at the County Assembly seeking to impeach Executive Committee members of Governor Kawira Mwangaza's cabinet for allegedly violating the Constitution and statutory laws. In the petition filed, the petitioners have cited a myriad of grounds upon which they want the County Secretary and Secretary to the Cabinet, 6 County Executive Committee members, 3 Chief Officers and the Chief of Staff sent packing. Among the facts relied upon is the defense Governor Mwangaza put up in the Senate during the failed impeachment attempt against her. And finally, health workers have raised an alert over a sharp rise in diabetes cases among pregnant women, which poses a major threat to their unborn babies and mothers. Christian Health Association of Kenya Chair Cyprian Kamau says the cases are rampant among new and young mothers, especially in urban areas. At least 7% of Kenyans are either diabetic or vulnerable to the condition as the number of patients continues to rise. That's the Newswire. I'm Leah Obaga.
All right, at a few minutes after 7 o'clock, traffic starting to build up in different parts of the city this morning. I think that it's going to get just a tad busier as we get onto the thicker superhighway this morning. As you're approaching the Pangani underpass, there's quite some traffic there at that nook as you try to get into the CBD. And it's also starting to build up on Kiambu Road this morning. Are you coming out of Westlands on James Gishuru? I think you'll be fine for now. We will see that build up later. That one is for sure. Crossing over to Wayaki Way. All right, as you're coming off Magadi Road, you'll be fine as till you get to that junction. You're going in the Karen direction, or then you're going towards Langata Road, and that will continue to move steadily for now. Outer Ring is busy. It's going to touch on those junctions. Manyanja going towards Jogo Road, and then at Kangunda Road heading out into the city until you get to that GSU junction of the thicker superhighway. It continues this morning and we're getting into it proper. We'll keep an eye on things and see what happens as we get closer to traffic hour. Spice FM KE on X. Let's talk there and keep things moving this morning.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi. This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist,
Good morning and welcome.
a man
7
who
minutes
believes
after
in
7
punching
o'clock.
up.
We're getting into the second hour of Kenya's biggest conversation this morning. It is Justice Thursday, and as we look at issues on accessing justice, we'll get into that conversation today. But step up and shine with Kiwi. You must remember, yes, we know the heavens are gloomy every now and then with the rain, but there's an opportunity with Kiwi to keep your shoes shined. Step up, shine. But here's a great opportunity. As we come to the end of the year and stepping into 2024, school fees will be a burden on your back, isn't it? But what are we saying? Walk into any supermarket today. Look for the Kiwi with the new logo. Purchase that Kiwi with the new logo, and then under the lid, once you pop it, you will find a code. You'll then come back to the starburst on the tin, and you will dial *459 *5 hash, input that code, and you instantly win airtime and or data. You also then get enrolled in the draw, which allows you to win 35,000 shillings for school fees. In January, it's like winning a pot of gold, isn't it, at that time? So 4 winners every week winning 35,000 shillings. It goes towards school fees. Kiwi, in an attempt to remind you to step up and shine. And you can do that very easily. Let's do it because it'll be great. This morning, in our Justice Thursday conversation, we will be looking at the enhancing access to justice in addressing GBV, but more importantly, we're looking critically at the role of women judges, magistrates in championing jurisprudence on gender-based violence. And joining us in the studio this morning, Honourable Lady Justice Helen Omondi is the judge of the Appeal Court and president of the International Association of Women Judges. Good morning and karibu sana. Also joining us this morning is Honourable Renee Kitagwa, who is the Principal Magistrate at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport Law Courts, at the JKIA Law Courts. Good morning, Justice.
Good morning too.
Karibu sana. Thank you both for joining us today on the Justice Thursday conversation. it started a while ago when we look at issues pertaining to justice, and we're looking at accessing justice and really understanding and breaking down some of these things for us to then be able to understand them at that level. Interestingly enough, our guest host for this morning swims in the same waters and she's a member of the ICJ, and Julie Matheka is our guest host for today. And as we look into those matters and jump into it, CT has a proverb that he shares with us every week. It comes from a different country, and we are in a democratic country this week with our proverbs, and he'll let us know who that is.
Yes. Last week we were in the Republic of Congo, not to be confused with the DRC. This week we are looking at proverbs from DRC, which is actually next door. If there had been no Berlin Conference and this redrawing of boundaries had existed, it was just simply one country. Well, I guess you could say it was just one continent, but then here we are. The proverb for the day, today is Thursday. You inherit from the dead, not the sick. That proverb is from DRC. I didn't invent it. You're looking at me as though it's like, why are you telling us these things? No, I am merely reading.
But that is true,
isn't it? Tell us what
even legally speaking, you can only inherit from somebody who is dead. That's why we do succession.
Indeed.
But for somebody who is sick, he's still alive. There's nothing that can pass. No property can pass from a sick person unless he bequeaths. He gives you like as a gift. Yes.
Interesting. Looking at it from a legal point of view, Justice Omondi, what does that mean to you?
Well, I looked at City a bit puzzled as to why he would think of...
He can be a puzzling fella sometimes.
Yes, he really can be. But yes, indeed, you can only inherit from the dead. The one who is sick may only be sick, again, depending on the nature of illness, but they are still alive and have rights over what they own, and can still speak and say yes and no. The dead, well, the dead don't speak, so one can be able to stake a claim and hope to fight over it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Indeed. Okay, well, I think that will actually play out a little bit as we have this conversation this morning, and looking at some of the things that we are talking about as we kick off into it. The role of women judges, it almost, just from that first part alone, it almost were to say that the role could be different from other judges when it comes to looking at matters of gender-based violence in the country. Is that the case? And where are we starting off? We'll start off with you, Honorable Omondi. Is that what we're seeing? That the role of women judges could be specifically different when it comes to adjudication in gender-based violence issues, matters?
Thank you very much. The role of women judges is not totally different, but we have the tendency to look at matters with a gender lens, specifically because of what women and girls go through, and children. Our training as judicial officers, as lawyers, is one. Yet the lived reality, which we cannot run away from, is that the society has a tendency of looking at individuals from a gender lens, so that I am defined by my sex, female or male. And a lot of things that would happen would be attributed to the fact that I'm either male or female. And that then leads to a lot of abuses. And because of the vulnerability of the female gender, there is the tendency to sort of sweep under the carpet what would otherwise be seen as being unfair and unjust. So yes, to that extent, we tend to have that lens because of the experiences that we go through and acknowledge.
Honorable Kisako, does it then affect how adjudication would then be played out? Because the almost initial reaction would be, well, this person who sits in a position as a judicial officer would lean in a particular way because of the fact that their gender naturally disposes them to feel a certain way. Would it then affect the way judgment happens?
Thank you for that question. I don't think that I would say you lean. You know, the nature of our training is that you need to balance. You need to understand that when you're sitting there as a judicial officer, you have to balance the rights of both parties. However, as a woman, you appreciate the role of a woman in the society, the challenges that women go through. So it's easier for you to relate with the issues and provide a conducive environment for a victim of gender violence in the circumstance. So that provides you with the ability to appreciate and understand this person better because of the gender role. You know, we've grown up in a stereotype society where women have been handled in a certain way. And being an African child, we understand, we know. When Ando speaks and says, this is what I've gone through, it's easier for me to relate. So I will look at it with that lens, provide that warmth, provide that environment that will allow the victim, because in most cases, these are victims of gender-based violence. Thank you.
You know, when you talk about gender-based violence, I sometimes wonder, the focus seems to be on the action that is described as violence, the verb. But what about the thinking that actually leads to it? What is it that makes people behave and conduct themselves in a certain way? What is this inclination? Because for it to be a subject that is constantly discussed, it's an issue that is out in the open, and it's something that is worrying. It's a trend that in many, many ways, it has a growth trajectory. What is it that brings us to this position where it is as worrisome as it is?
Thank you for that question. The issue of gender-based violence, it's a worrisome issue. And to answer that question, allow me to give my experience, because I've served in Kibera law courts for quite a number of years, about 7 years, and appreciating that environment. We've encountered various forms of gender-based violence. And in terms of what causes that, sometimes you may not really understand, but because things happen, and when people appear before you, somebody will say, okay, I was going out to line up my clothes, and I took some time outside. And when mostly is the husband or the boyfriend for some reason, calls the wife back, and he asks the wife, how come you've taken so long outside? Were you talking to some other man, or what were you doing? And issues escalate. So the causes are quite varied. So I cannot really say this is what causes gender violence, but it happens every single day. Every single day.
Allow me to go back to the earlier point that was being discussed around women understanding women's issues slightly better. Last year's data from CRU indicated that 711 men were actually victims of gender-based violence as well, sexual and gender-based violence. And I note that in the SGBV strategy that was launched by the Honorable the Chief Justice, Trauma Responsive Justice, that there was a concern that was raised in one of the conversations and consultations that if we have more women addressing GBV, then the men who are actually victims and survivors of GBV may not feel comfortable coming to the courts. Maybe shed light on that.
Thank you very much. We recognize that when you talk about SGBV and GBV, the majority of the survivors or the victims may be women. But it is a fact that men and boys also go through that kind of violence. Acknowledging that, the female judicial officers within the International Association of Women Judges, the Kenyan chapter, recognize that we need to rope in the men so that our membership actually has women and men. The he for she, brother for sister approach. And we have 16 male champions. 6 are judges and 10 are magistrates and Kadi. So yes, we acknowledge that it is not only something that affects women only. Perhaps the socialization is such that men tend to keep it under wraps. Be man and not, don't talk about it. Women tend to voice it out. Actually, our mantra is justice and equality for all. So we acknowledge that, and we would want to see a society where it is violence-free, irrespective of which gender.
Right.
Yes.
Maybe just to add on to that, I think you've seen jurisprudence coming from court, and it's women who are also making these decisions in favor of men. If you've been following social media, let me deviate from the issue of gender-based violence, and let me just talk about maybe issues to do with children and custody, because that's what we also fight for. You will notice that it is the female judicial officers who are also giving custody to the male parents in this situation. And you see some of these issues, even where men feel deprived in one way or the other, they are as a result of issues to do with custody of children. You will realize a lot of fights, a lot of issues arise from that. But it's the same women in IAWJA who say, no, in this particular situation, the man is right. So it does not mean that we have abandoned the men and focused purely on the female. It just means that we are trying to advocate for the rights of the women and the child, because in most situations, they are more vulnerable
to this. Okay, what have we seen in terms of a trajectory, again, on the adjudication of some of these cases and the roles that women judges, magistrates have played in this over time? And I know that in the former administration of Kenya, that we had seen the years 2024, next year, and 2026 marked as years whereby gender-based violence should essentially come to an end. From a judicial point of view, are we actually seeing that? And when we talk about adjudication, are we looking at reform of the individuals who made these other individuals victims? Or are we just seeing that a case is brought before court, this person is either jailed or reprimanded, but then the risk of them being repeat offenders is still very much alive?
Thank you. There are two ways of looking at it. One, legislation may never completely change behavior. And in recognizing that, our association, the International Association of Women Judges, has pushed for several things. One, we recognize that those that have cases in court relating to SGBV, the cases tend to take very long. And when the cases take long, then there's a likelihood of interference with the witness. There's a likelihood of the witness forgetting. And of course, there's always the question of being re-traumatized. And the longer it takes, the worse it is. Our association has actually pushed for survivor-friendly courts. And proudly so that the Chief Justice did launch the first SGBV court in the country, in Shanzu, which coincidentally coincided with her push for social transformation through access to justice. And our idea is that these cases should be determined in the fastest way possible, and in an environment that leaves the victim with their dignity intact. Because normally the survivor or victim, as you may say, is made to feel ashamed and made to feel to be the one to carry the blame. And as a result of our push, we've actually, the Chief Justice has set up 10 other courts. But to talk about the escalation of violence, and especially gender-based violence, I'm sure you noticed that during the corona period, it spiked.
Yes.
Many reasons. City asked, what are the reasons why that causes gender-based violence?
Mm-hmm.
It is as varied as life is. Part of it is just our socialization. Women are objects, children are objects that you can let out or vent out on.
Mm-hmm.
But there are also the economic factors that one feels constrained by certain limitations to let out their frustration. And which object is easier than the vulnerable one? And it is with this in mind that I'm sure you're aware of the 16 days of activism, which we are keenly involved in, because we realize legislation alone cannot change. So we need to reach out. We need to create awareness. And we need to let the people in the country know. So we are roping in this international 16 days that is observed globally to also get to the root people within our communities. And because our association is in all the regions in the country, every region for the next 16 days from 25th of November to 10th of December will be having an activity that will be able to sensitize the people and be able to see whether, because I think leadership is not only about taking the mantle and leading, but it is also inspiring change and allowing people to help in bringing that change. So yes, there has been an escalation, but yes, also there has been great effort by not only our association, but several of our partners and stakeholders to try and reach every person and make them aware of the challenges.
In addition to what Judge has said, I sit in the lowest courts? So we interact with these people every single day. The victim and the perpetrator. And getting back to your question about whether we give them also an opportunity to reform, I think that's what you also asked.
Yes.
In most instances, cases of gender violence are between a husband, wife, boyfriend, those kind of relationships in a family setup. And if you look at the Constitution, the family is a basic unit. And one of our responsibility is also to ensure that basic unit remains intact. It's a home. In handling these cases, when victims come before you, sometimes depending on the circumstances, because again, circumstances are as varied as life, the way Judge has put it. So in some situations, you will find even the victim wants to go back to the perpetrator. So you allow the two individuals to speak, because the Constitution also allows us to allow the parties to engage in ADR. If it is a situation where the only thing you can do is to warn, and it has worked. It's something I've seen. You sit and, it takes time, it takes patience for you as a judicial officer. You sit with these people. Maybe it's a couple. They have stayed together for 15 years, 20 years. And you see, immediately after maybe assaulting or causing any form, any of the various forms of gender violence, some of the perpetrators are actually sorry. They actually apologize, even in court. Personally, I've seen gifts being given in court, and they come back together. While serving in Naivasha, I sat with a couple, and initially the situation was bad, because I will not mention names, but I can just give the circumstance of the case, where the man of the house assaulted the wife, even took an iron box, hot one, and smashed it on her hand, and she sustained burns. 1 year down the line, the case was in court. Yeah, I was presiding over it, but the gentleman came and he said he does not know what got over him. That's why we say, sometimes you don't even know what causes that. And through various meetings, various sessions, I refer them to go for counseling so that they can decide, because it's not something that you can also push as a judicial officer. It should come from the parties. They sat down, and despite the gender violence that was experienced in that home, they were back together. 1 year down the line, I found them at Naivas supermarket holding hands. So it does not mean that in every other situation we punish. In certain situations, we allow for the parties involved to sit down and mediate and talk. But there are situations where the situation is so bad that you can no longer even allow the victim back to that particular environment. In such a situation, there's nothing much you can do. You apply the legislation available. Unfortunately, the law is there. It provides for punishment. We apply the law as it is.
As it is.
And maybe just to add on to that, I think recognizing that we need to reach out even to the perpetrator. It is better to get to the problem before it comes up. And what our association is doing is that we have organized various activities targeting groups that we think would have the highest impact. If you visit our prisons, you'll find an age set of between 18 to 30 charged with sexual offenses, which carry very heavy sentences. And so some of the activities that we will be carrying out in the next 16 days actually are targeting communities that we think would be able to have the highest impact, whether it is in the Nyanza region, in the Mount Kenya region, in Rift Valley region. Visiting prisons, yes, to talk to those that are already facing that challenge, but also engaging with communities like the beach management units. They can organize themselves and have one of us sensitize them on sexually and gender-based violence. But even for the women, there is the tendency to keep quiet and feel ashamed about it. So it is also to reach out to them and let them know it is okay to know that you are not going through this alone, and please don't keep quiet. There is help. There is a way that this can be changed. And as she says, it is not all, because sometimes the fear is, but if I go and report this is my husband, he will be put in.
There will be shame.
Yeah.
Of course. Let's take a break on that note. The Honourable Renee Kitagwa, as well as Honourable Lady Justice Helen Omondi, are our guests this morning, and we're looking at the role of women judges, magistrates in championing jurisprudence on gender-based violence this morning. It's 28 minutes to 7 o'clock. Right back after this.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Good morning, and I love your show.
Thank you.
Having come from a Kikuyu radio background, I migrated to Spice because of the content.
I was born in a slum, but somehow I got a break in life. So sometimes when you see the sweating coming out because of the passion and whatever it is, behind the noise, there are people, and we share the same umbilical cord.
It shouldn't be like that. I am so disappointed. We used to tell Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga that he's doing police of conmanship, and even President Uhuru Kenyatta, serikali hii ndio iko na conmanship ya hali ya juu. You cannot promise people that you reduce tax, then you double.
In politics, there is the issue of trust. For you to turn around and then stab the same people who gave you that trust, there is no other level of dishonesty. And hii mambo utaona dunia tu.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
$16 degrees and cloudy conditions in Nairobi, highs of 23, and we'll see highs of 22 in a partly sunny Nakuru at 15. It's 16 and mostly cloudy in Nyeri, highs of 22, and we'll definitely see rain later. Looking into a partly sunny Eldoret at 14, highs of 24, and into Mombasa this morning at 24, heavy rain through the night and into the morning, highs of 29. and we'll see rain at some point in a partly cloudy Malindi, currently at 25. In Kisumu this morning, mostly sunny conditions. We'll go into cloudy conditions later, highs of 28 and lows of 20. And Kakamega is sunny at 17, going to highs of 27. Kampala this morning is partly sunny at 21 with highs of 27. We'll see lows of 19. And it's partly sunny at 24 in Dar es Salaam, going to highs of 31. Mogadishu this morning is partly sunny at 28 and it's partly sunny at 13 in Addis Ababa. Sunny at 13 in Johannesburg, going to highs of 27. And Lagos is cloudy at 25, going to highs of 31. Kinshasa is clear at 23. We'll see highs of 33 and lows of 23.
Welcome to Spice FM, the best exclusive.
All right, so traffic continues, but it's actually not too sticky this morning. Just a little bit of it building on the Thika Superhighway and then coming in through to the city. You'll use your service lanes until you get towards the Pangani underpass, or rather past Survey, and then you can't use them anymore. Limuru Road is also starting to build up now, and coming off the northern bypass. You're coming into Ruaka, we'll see some movement there. James Gishuru is also pretty busy. Still looking at what's going on as you come off of Jogo Road, and that's busy as you get towards Landis, and then at the Kamkunji roundabout, it's busy on Langata Road, quite busy actually, and some of that traffic will spill over towards Raila Odinga Way, and Uhuru Highway is giving through towards the CBD. We're getting into traffic hour proper right about now. Let's see what happens right after this. Spice FM, KE on X. Let's talk there and keep things moving this Thursday.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
It's a Justice Thursday conversation this morning, and we're looking at the role of women judges and magistrates in jurisprudence on gender-based violence.
I have to ask, by the time you get to be a chief magistrate, the time you get to be a judge, apart from just the experience, you initially went to school, went to law school, but chances are you've studied a bit more. You even have a judiciary academy. Are there units in the course of your studies where you study counseling, psychological welfare? There's a reason why I ask. If you're constantly in touch with the issues we're dealing with, you will need help at some point. You cannot deal with these matters and you are left unscathed. You will be affected. 1, 2, because of the power of the positions that you hold and the authority therein, would this not be a pivotal point where, if one had such training, I'm assuming that it isn't there, and if it's there, it's inadequate, so that you can actually handle these things from a 360 perspective of understanding human nature and how it plays out in some of these circumstances? Just asking.
Yeah, thank you for that question. And I will reiterate that being the lowest cadre, we deal with these issues on a daily basis, Monday to Friday, meeting victims, various forms, be it defilement, be it rape, be it assault, all those kind of violence meted on people and on both genders. Looking back at the various units we did, I do not think at any given time I went through any course on counseling. It has been largely a personal initiative, but currently we are so grateful to the Chief Justice that she has appreciated. And sometimes that's why we say, women, sometimes they see far. And not
sometimes. Women see far.
I'm trying to be sensitive. I'm trying to be sensitive.
I'm also being very sensitive. They see far as a matter of fact. They actually do.
Yes. And if you look at the stage, one of the key focal points is mental awareness. We're actually coming up now with trainings, not in terms of the one-on-ones, but the They're actually, what is happening now, counselors are being brought in place during our various trainings, and they take us through sessions. Right now, I'm able to even evaluate myself. I'm able to tell when I'm low, when I cannot even handle a case. And the other important thing is I've also been given an opportunity to accept that today I cannot handle this case because I'm so emotionally down. Unlike before, the matter is before you. It does not matter how broken I am. It does not matter how I'm feeling that particular morning. I have to handle it. But in the space that the CJ has given us in the current dispensation of justice, I'm actually allowed to say, can I hear this matter tomorrow when I'm okay? We have now counselors in our medical scheme. I can now walk into a hospital without paying. And we really appreciate the Chief Justice for that. So it's accessible, but not in form of training, but as a service and also as a form of creating awareness.
It's a milestone, but do you have such services within the judiciary? Meaning, I know, for instance, you have a registrar.
Yes.
You even have cashiers.
Yes, City. We do have, we actually have a psychosocial support unit.
Good.
And it has been recommended. I think there's even a task force that's working with the Chief Justice, because it has been recommended that that unit needs to be upped in terms of the manpower, so that you would have someone who would relate well with judicial officers of a certain level, and who will not feel like I am telling my junior staff that would probably make a good novel. You know, so there is actually a psychosocial support unit. But to get back to what you've even asked, we recognize that the trauma is not only for the victim and the victim's family, but it is, and sometimes even the perpetrator's family feel traumatized to think that one of their own would be carrying on in something like this and is now being exposed in the public, but also for the judicial officer. Actually, there have been trainings specifically targeting SGBV and how to handle. And part of the reason why we had so much clamored for the specialized courts was in recognition of the longer it takes, the more traumatized. But that we also need our officers to undergo training so that you are not only sensitive to the person that you are handling, but also sensitive to yourself. And also to keep reminding us, to disabuse us of certain biases that we have grown up with, that we have been exposed to. So yes, you're right about the trauma. It cuts across, but that is part of why.
You know,
and just to add on to that, when you talk of trauma, I can tell you there are days that when you leave court and you cry and you can't sleep. That happens every other time. Maybe as journalists, and you know, we may invite you maybe once in a while.
Why don't you just invite us?
Yeah, we are inviting you actually in to sit in some of these sessions, because you see, we are here to create awareness, and you may not really appreciate some of these things if you are not directly in contact, so that you feel what happens, the real situation on the ground. If you feel the real situation of the ground on your justice morning sessions, you'll take that responsibility upon yourself, even without us, to speak about some of these things. Because we talk about, in terms of curbing, even the SGBV issues, when we are here to create awareness, we are here to tell people, please stop it. Because when you look at the repercussions, it affects everybody. Judge has explained it. It affects the perpetrator's family. It affects the court. It affects the victim. So it's not really one person who suffers. It's a whole society.
That does.
And maybe that's why then we have the mentorship program that is really also spearheaded by our association, that those of us who have gone through the ranks and have had instances of interaction may mentor the younger judicial officers in how to handle the situation and handle themselves.
Well.
So mentorship is a big thing for us. Yeah.
You know,
I really
there's
like that.
sorry, go ahead, please.
I really like that, and I think it's also been emphasized in the KJA curriculum that there needs to be a specialized course on gender sensitivity and also SGBV handling. But I'll piggyback to what you said earlier, Judge, which is on the fact that the cases take a bit longer than they should in the court system, and appreciating that the judiciary has put in place active case management. How then do they take that long? Because I would appreciate that the lawyers, the prosecutor, and the magistrate are sitting together and agreeing on how to conduct the case so that it can be dispensed with at the earliest time possible for the sake of the victim, the survivor, but also for the perpetrator, should they be innocent, because at the same time that person is innocent until proven guilty, so that this matter can move as fast as it can through the system. So what is the challenge in terms of hastening the process in court?
The challenge has been, remember that the specialized courts were just launched the other day, and the first one was just in Shanzu about 2 years ago. But the challenge has been that it is not only the SGBV cases that are handled by a judicial officer. Those matters go before a magistrate, and that magistrate has other matters as well. To the Kenyan, every court case is important.
Yes.
So that we would not want to send the wrong message when a litigant or an accused person comes to court and make them feel that your case is less. Because for them, it is a matter of their liberty and their freedom. Which was why then the SGBV courts came up, courtesy of being pushed for by our association. But the challenge has been getting the numbers. You talked about trauma. Having one magistrate hear that kind of case every day, 365 or 280 days in a year, would do something to them.
Heavy toll.
Yeah.
Imagine.
But yet we recognize that there is the flip side of it. The longer it takes, the more traumatic it is for the victim.
Yeah.
So we are pushing for a situation where let's have these specialized courts, but let's also have the numbers so that even the magistrate would be sitting there. If they sit and have to handle other matters, the matters do not stall. We have numbers so that it moves. We know that there are countries that have tried it and would wish to, probably the Kenyan type and benchmark.
Yes.
But it is something that has worked in other jurisdictions. We have court users committees that would help us think through. We have trainings that we are going through, and our association has had many of those, to sensitize the judicial officers and the other stakeholders, because it is not just the magistrate sitting to hear those cases.
Exactly.
Sometimes it's the police file missing, the doctor is who feel the P3 form is not available, there's been interference with the victim, all manner of things contribute towards the delay. Sometimes the advocate has not turned up or has a case somewhere. So there are many factors that can be attributed to this.
Sure.
But the best would be to get all the stakeholders together so that we are able to push for a more expeditious way of handling. But our starting point would be the specialized courts.
Sure. I mean, the makeup of all of these cases is very important, and the practitioners of that as well, and how they're involved and how they're affected. Looking at what then is the matter of the stuff of some of these cases, whereby women judges and magistrates then adjudicate over some of these cases. And one thing springs to mind is looking at the age of some of these perpetrators as well as the victims. As you mentioned, the ages of those that we are finding in prison today, between 18 and 30. And comes to mind Justice Odunga and what he recommended at some point when he talked about, look, why are we looking at a minimum sentence of 10 years for anybody who's involved in any kind of case, sexual assault? Now, we know that a child under the age of 18, a child is a child under the age of 18. Somebody who has sex with him or her then is charged with a criminal assault, with a criminal offense, by virtue of the fact that their age. whether you bring in the aspect of consensual or not, we also say then somebody under the age of 18 is not able to give consent because they're still a child. However, it then, with this Justice Odunga case, then brings in the sensitivity that we speak about, especially when we started this conversation talking about women judges and magistrates. Would that come into play here? Because we have far too many cases of this thing where it is a consensual relationship, but we have young boys a day shy of 18, 2 days after 18, being thrown in prison for something which they honestly did not see as an offense. How are we dealing with that?
That one, I want to applaud our good judge who is before us. She delivered a very good judgment on that. And for me, I have adopted that, and I don't struggle with that. My only duty is to say there's jurisprudence, and one of the things that women judges are doing is to create jurisprudence, and judge has done that. So the issue of Romeo and Juliet, I think it's no longer an issue before us.
What is jurisprudence?
Jurisprudence is when courts make decisions that give guidance, that resolves issues. So we can, yes, it's a precedent, rightly put. Yes. You know, when you use precedent and jurisprudence, sometimes those terminologies are hard for the Kenyans to hear. So it's just decisions.
Kenyan, yes.
Yes. We are now talking to the ordinary Kenyans out there.
Yes.
So she came up with a beautiful, beautiful judgment. For me, I call it Judgment of the Year.
Can you open it up for us a little bit?
The judgment?
Yes.
That is I think it's SOPO 1 of 2017.
Right.
Yes.
Speak to it if you can.
If you would,
yes,
please.
I would speak to it. And this is a very unfortunate situation where, especially in the rural setup, first of all, currently, 22 is the new 18. The level of maturity shifted, but the ages remain.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, in the rural setup, you find a young man who has gone through primary school and is unable to pursue their education beyond that. And the easiest thing is either to become a border rider or a fisherman. And those trades have money in their context.
Yes.
And after a while, the young man's mother will be asking him, with all this money, why are you cooking for yourself?
Should have a wife.
Now,
Surely.
you tell me, if my 17-year-old son brings home a 30-year-old, I'll pass out.
Surely.
He's been bewitched. Well, who will he look for? Someone younger than him. Yeah?
Of course.
So it is that kind of Romeo. And you know, in the village, girlfriend, boyfriend is actually husband, wife.
Yes,
it
is.
If you even try to woo the other person's girlfriend, they'll tell you, wachana na huyo ni bibi ya fulani, right? So when you have that kind of situation, how then can we help this young generation? Because the law remains what you've said, 18 is 18. For the Romeo and Juliet, 17 and 15, there's no consent. These are children who actually need guidance,
yes,
right? And they should probably be taken through some counseling. But because the law is the law, and because 21 is actually the new 18, 25 is actually the new 20, then we must reach out to them. We must reach out to them in the schools, in the areas where we find these certain age ranges, and be able to tell them, below 18, there's no consent. And girls have also become aggressive. It is a matter of fact. We must reach out to the girls and explain to them, when you throw yourself at someone, when you blackmail, and this generation, blackmail is a big thing. Or if you don't want to sleep with me, I'll go to the next person.
Yes.
So we have to reach to both the boys and girls. And just, first of all, sensitize them on the fact that below 18, there's no question of consent. But that will be hogwash unless you tell them of the consequences. And the consequences are dire. That by the time you are proving you are 17 and not 18, you've been in the system, you've been in remand, you have gone through the works, then you have to go for age assessment. And just depending on your physical makeup, you may be 17, but you look like 25.
Indeed.
So that once you come to court and you're telling me you're 17, I'll not buy that. I'll say that you should go for age assessment. So all that traumatizes a young person. So why not reduce this traumatization by sensitizing them at the earliest, by going to the schools, by mentoring them and empowering them, so that we reduce that. But yes, the Sexual Offences Act is a very harsh legislation, and we would want to have a lot of discussion around it. I think the NCAJ committee is already working around looking at the Sexual Offences Act and making certain recommendations. So I will not go into that because I'm not in that committee, and we have a representative in that committee.
You do know that the judicial system is lagging behind the health system. Because of HIV, this very thing we're discussing, the moment a young person was HIV positive, especially a young lady, had a child, you now became a mature minor. And you were managed and treated like a mature person. And why? As you mentioned, the lived experience was this person as a child.
So they cannot be a child.
You're not going to... Yes, the details in this particular matter, you park it aside. And then the issue of children, because of HIV, where you find households being led by grandmothers or 17-year-olds. I know of instances where you have a 17-year-old with 3 wives, and they're all younger than him.
Yeah.
Okay. And they have children. So now, again, it's in a rural setting. Again, the fellow's a fisherman. So you look at the law and you look at the lived reality, and you're saying the law is being left behind here a little bit. And this person is going to be disadvantaged because these are special circumstances, and he's not the only one. And the law doesn't cater for this because it's circumstances that has forced this 17-year-old to be the head of the household. He did not want his parents to do that.
True.
And I think also on the flip side, in the urban setting right now, because of the infiltration of technology, people being on social media, people are getting girlfriends and boyfriends earlier. This new generation of people are very mature for their age, way beyond their age. So you'll find that they're engaging in conduct that is adult conduct. So yes, you have the dynamics in the rural setting. You also have the urban dynamics in the urban setting because of technology being westernized, being cultured in a bad way, I would imagine, because some of these things were a preview of when you get married, but now I think everyone is doing it, so why not? So how then do we ensure that the criminal justice system does not criminalize everyone under a certain age, and as such there will be no one within a certain bracket, because we are all in the criminal justice system for having engaged in conduct that everyone else was engaging in. I am not promoting it. I'm just saying it is the lived reality that we are in.
True. You want to go first?
No, go ahead.
Okay. What you're saying is true. And happily for us, we are actually working with several development partners. And in fact, next week we will be having a meeting, a 2-day meeting, just to sensitize and have discussions around SGBV technology and the digital world. And among our partners are IDLO and Equality Now, because we recognize that what City is saying, we are lagging behind. There are those opportunities, there are those spaces that if we shut our eyes to, we will be singing to the birds. Yeah. So you're quite right. But we recognize that, and happily again, our development partners realize the critical role that sensitizing judicial officers in a structured manner really is needed, and have roped us in. Yeah.
And, look, what I think, even as we wrap up this conversation, it's encouraging that what would have been seen as a rigid system is actually thinking and seeing the reality on the ground, and then being able to adjudicate with that information in mind. And I think it's exciting to see that that can actually happen, then moving on into the future, and then we start to see, an open system. Really,
does it not lend itself to what we're now seeing as a lived reality, that having a female Chief Justice is an enormous advantage to the judicial system.
Definitely.
Oh, yes.
It is.
Definitely.
Our guests this morning have been Honourable Lady Justice Helen Omondi, who is Judge of the Court of Appeal and the President of the International Association of Women Judges, as well as Honourable Renee Kitagwa, who is a Principal Magistrate at the JKIA Law Court. Thank you for being here this morning, and these conversations indeed must continue. Until the next time, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
Asante Sana. We'll look at what's happening in the news, and then we'll come back. Conversations continue after this. It's 8 o'clock.
Spice up your life.
This is the Newswire. I'm La Obaga. Former Mandera Senator Bill Okero says any new policy introduced by the government must first be examined on its impact on the cost of living. Okero says that the Kenya Kwanza government has failed to examine this factor and continues to introduce new charges without involving the public.
There seems to be a disconnect between public servants and the situation on the ground, the reality on the ground, the way Kenyans are suffering. So every department comes up and says, we want to charge this and we want to charge this and we want to do this. They don't look at the impact on the cost of living. For example, this week alone, IDs, Ministry of Internal Security, then the Ministry of Land revising fees, APA announcing review of the rates. Then we had the Ministry for Roads announcing, the CS Roads announcing that they're going to start charging toll charges on major highways. This is only this week alone. KRA on all small goods. And this is happening every week. There seems to be a desperation by the government to collect revenue.
He further says that Kenyans have been paying taxes for the same services. They are being charged highly.
But the irony is that governments are there to provide services to public. This is why I agree with the opposition leader Raila that we are not supposed to pay for every service that we get from public service. That's why we pay tax. We pay tax to government so that they can provide services. That's why when you go to a government office, you expect to be given service. You cannot be paying taxes, paying that officer sitting there, your salaries and everything. And when you go for service, you are again being told to pay for that particular service. Pay for this ID, pay for this form, for this transaction. Every activity that the government officer is doing for you, you pay for it again. This is madness.
The Ministry of Health has entered its fourth day in the mobilization and free treatment of neglected diseases in West Pokot County. The NDI head says they are celebrating 20 years since diseases such as yellow fever, sleeping sickness, kalaza, among others, were detected in the region.
So tunatumia hii kambi kuweza kuangalia kama hawa wagonjwa wako hapa pamoja na sisi. Zinaitwa neglected diseases. Hizi ni magonjwa yamesaulika au hayajulikani sana. Sasa utapata wagonjwa wenyewe hawaelewi hiyo ugonjwa wako nayo. Madaktari wenyewe hawawezi kuzitambulisha vizuri. So kwa sasa kwa leo tuko hapa ili tuweze kuzitambua hizi maugonjwa na tuweze kupatia wagonjwa hao matibabu wanayohitaji.
Health expert Kimani Shege says statistics show that more than 70% of Kalaza disease infections in the country affects West Pokot County residents.
We have Kacheliba as the main treatment center. Tuko na mahali ambapo tunasema ni satellite center ambao inaitwa Sigor. Pia kuna matibabu inaendelea Turkana na the burden for last year was 670. We've already clocked 500 for West Pokot this year. Kwa hivyo inamaanisha takwimu zetu zitakuwa karibu hapo 600 700. Kwa hivyo kuna hiyo burden ya Kalaza katika sehemu hii ya Kenya.
Forests and Climate Change CS Soipan Tuya has ruled out the suspension of the Okoa Misitu initiative that was rolled out to save the Kenyan forests. Tuya said criminal elements were taking advantage of the initiative to destroy the forests. The announcement came after an outcry from residents and leaders from areas bordering the forests after the implementation of the initiative. Police in Siaya County have launched investigations into the mysterious death of a middle-aged Boda Boda operator whose body was found inside a pit latrine. The man's body was discovered lying in a pool of blood and he is suspected to have been murdered by unknown people before the body was stuffed inside the toilet. County Police Commander Kleti Kimayo says his body had deep cuts all over the head and they are awaiting a post-mortem and identification. And finally, on the international scene, a Boeing 747 en route from New York to Belgium was forced to turn around after a horse got loose in the cargo hold. The cargo flight, operated by charter airline Air Atlanta Icelandic, had climbed to around 31,000 feet when the crew contacted air traffic control in Boston to report that the horse had escaped from its stall. That's the Newswire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
It's critical that people pay taxes. But then taxation has to have a limit. When you start overtaxing people beyond certain limit, then this is now we call robbery with violence.
We are all struggling, but we don't show. If you're not doing well, shame on you. But you have to say, I'm broke and I'm struggling. We are not okay until everybody is okay.
We are pretending to have political parties. Why don't we just be honest? And we say, these are the Luyas, these are the Kambas, these are the Kikuyus, and we find ourselves in Kenya.
You know, with politics and leadership, no matter what you do, there will always be a complaint. There will always be the assumption that you're either stealing or you're not doing things right. As a leader, don't fear. If you know you're doing the right thing, you've thought about it, you've got an expert advice, do it, then understand later.
This country, we don't need prayers. Prayers is between you and God. Good governance and thinkers who care about the country and not their stomach.
That's what we need.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
It's a few minutes after 8 o'clock and we're looking at traffic still. In the city, it's actually quite heavy as you're coming on Langata Road, heading out towards Uhuru Highway. It looks like it's going to be there for a minute. Some of that is going towards Raila Odinga Way. And are you coming off the Thika Superhighway? I am sorry, because traffic is heavy and it's all the way through towards Survey and then heading out towards Muranga Road. And that's going to be there for some time. So something happens after 7:30, traffic hour starts and boom, everybody's everywhere. Coming off of James Gishuru as well. Some traffic heading out towards Waiyaki Way, and it is very, very busy. We'll keep an eye on things. Let's know what's popping, where you are this morning. We'll talk on Spice FM, KE on X.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Good morning. It's 7 minutes after 8 o'clock and into the third hour of Kenya's biggest conversation this morning. Where are you tuned in from? Around the country and indeed around the world. Our live streams up on Spice FM KE on YouTube, Facebook, and as we look into our following conversations this morning, technology, it's big, it's everywhere, it's around us, and what are we going to be able to do with it to be able to make the best of our experience here on Earth? All right, as we get into the hour, step up and shine with Kiwi. There are puddles everywhere, it's raining, but you can still shine with this brand that you've known since you were young. And getting into the year 2024, and you're going to ask yourself questions. How are we going to make it? Well, Kiwi says you can step up and actually make it. I want you to go into your supermarket this morning, today, this afternoon, through into the weekend. Get a tin of Kiwi with the new logo design. Buy a tin of that. And then look under your lid, you will find a code. Come back to the starburst on the tin and you'll dial *459*5# and you will win airtime or data instantly. You will then also have an opportunity to enter the draw. The draw then means that you could win 35,000 shillings that goes towards school fees come January 2024. And voila, you could actually be in a place where you don't have to worry about much, and you can actually step up and shine with Kiwi. All right, we're getting into a technology conversation this morning, and our guest is already seated. And Bernard Wanjao, before I tell them who you are, I'm just going to say good morning.
Good morning.
Karibu sana to the hot seat of the Situation Room.
Thank you very much.
Bernard is the Data Center Solutions Specialist at Dell Technologies, Southeast Africa. And it's good to have you here because we'll be having an AI conversation. AI, it could have, if we were talking about cattle, it would be one thing. But we're talking about technology, so it's another thing. Artificial intelligence, buzzwords that have been around our space for the last decade or so. And probably more pronounced after folks sat in some kind of silos when COVID did its thing. And then when the world opened up, this thing blew up and everybody was everywhere doing things. And so we're getting into that conversation today. And we're looking at AI and machine learning solutions. So there are learning solutions and looking at how Dell Technologies is championing some of those. As we get into that, because it'll be a fun conversation, hang on and seatbelts. Absolutely. Seatbelts on because it's going to be a fun ride here as Bernard walks us through some of these things. But before we do that, CT always has a proverb from a different country every week.
Okay.
And he's taking it away.
Yes, the whole of this week our proverbs will be from the country of DRC, the Democratic Republic of Congo. You inherit from the dead, not the sick.
Okay, profound.
Yes? What does it mean to you? How would you interpret this, brother?
Wow, okay. So, first of all, good morning, everyone. It's really good to be here. I'm an avid watcher of you, by the way. So, really great pleasure to join you here today.
Asante, you are home.
Yeah, well, feels like it. The city is a bit warm, so I'm sure it's probably an indication of how it's going to be. But I don't mind the heat. It's cold outside. So this saying, this proverb, I think is has several dimensions. So I'll kind of just interpret it how I hear it now, and also try and align it to maybe something we are going to be discussing today about really determining the real state of things.
Yes,
right?
yeah.
So my first take of it is that it's not over until it's over. Don't start counting probably your eggs,
chickens until
chickens, or whatever the case may be. Don't, and it can be a double-edged sword. I think inheritance is typically seen as gaining something good, property, wealth, but also it could be inheriting, I think, also problems that have not solved.
Yeah, indeed.
So
that
careful what you might be looking forward to, or maybe not. But it's not over until it's over. Now, there's another angle to this, which I think then comes into how do you determine when that state changes, right? Sick and passed away, dead. That sometimes is also controversial. And we are saying today some of the technologies that are coming to bear are helping humans to be able to make some of these decisions, really decision-making capabilities, enhance our decision-making capabilities. Because without getting too into the medical field, sometimes people are declared dead before they are.
Actually dead.
Yeah.
Real dead.
But then we have systems that could potentially be able to assist those kind of situations. So, I mean, we can look at it, probably can speak about it half an hour into all the dimensions on this. But
if Segway was a man, it would be Bernard Wanjao. Oh, fantastic. I like the way he's just gone into that. CT's handing out points, 1 million points. Do with them what you want.
On a scale
Purchase
of 1
what
to
you
10,
like.
the beauty of asking for someone's opinion, it's not possible for them to be wrong. Because they've just given us the opinion and the understanding of it. And so it's correct. So if it were an exam and it was out of 10, you'd get 10.
Okay. Thank you.
Every once in a while, you have people who actually exceed the 10.
Yeah.
Yes. But those are usually on the way to writing a book.
You know, it reminds me of back in the day when we used to do compositions. And I remember my English teacher in high school telling,
teacher
primary.
of English?
Thank you. You're a teacher of the English language.
Okay, thank you.
I was one such person, so
I didn't get an A in English.
I understand.
You were close, but not there. But they said you can never get 100% in composition.
Yeah, they say. It's still now, apparently.
I was very confused with that. It didn't. I've never reconciled that because it's my story.
Yeah.
It is how that teacher was taught. It is. And pedagogy, as we know it, sometimes can be limiting. The truth of the matter is, if somebody told a story that was uniquely theirs, there's no reason why they should not have gotten 10 out of 10.
Indeed. Solutions is what we're looking at today. Artificial intelligence, when it made its debut on the world stage, is said to be something that was going to present solutions across sectors, whether it was in research, whether it was in education, whether it was in governance. It was seen as this one-time panacea for everything. So maybe as we get into this and what Dell Technologies is actually doing, and what the world is expecting, let's just start from a very basic. Again, I think it's important when we talk about artificial intelligence, and now we're looking at learning solutions. Artificial intelligence, essentially intelligence that is cooked up by a human. Artificial. What are we talking about here?
Okay. What is artificial intelligence? So there are various ways of describing this. And so far in my career, I've been in IT for just over 20 years now, working in various capacities, starting from technical support into services, and then into the engineering or the solution designing and that kind of field, which is where I am today from a specialist perspective. One of the things I've learned during that period, I'm getting to your question, is listen and also keep it simple. Now, there's always a challenge. City would probably attest to this, but keeping it simple means you need to understand it.
You are so very right.
Right?
Yes.
So,
you are so very right.
So AI can be described in very technical terms, but I'll try and keep it simple here. And I would say it's basically using technology to enhance how machines, devices, interact with humans. Okay? Now, that interaction has been traditionally quite, what we'd say, basic, whereby the machines do mechanical work, the humans kind of instruct them on what to do. Programming, coding, things like this. And they're going to do various activities, right? Various tasks, typically mechanical tasks. The human is going to be the one to do the decision making and the thinking. So now, what artificial intelligence is really intending to do, and what we are really gunning for, and we are really making a lot of strides in that area from an IT industry, is to change that into actually machines themselves, or the systems themselves doing the decisions, and more even the thinking. So we're already quite a bit in that direction. And there are many examples, and I'll try and keep this as practical, meaning giving practical examples of some that the public may not be aware is happening, and some that are quite obvious in terms of this is what's happening today because it's in the social medias, it's trending and all that.
So telling a machine to do the thinking for you, why?
Well, it turns out, that we've known that machines, computers, even calculators, let's say even when we were kids, and and even now, are able to do specific things much better than we can, faster than we can. Take a lot of data and analyze it. Take a lot of numbers and add them, divide them, and manipulate them, right? Your Excel program from Microsoft, right, which is a partner for Dell, is able to do a lot of things for the last decade and a half, amazing things. In fact, they say we're only using about typically 5% of its capabilities, right? Because it can do a lot, but we have to instruct it on a lot of things.
Yeah.
And sometimes you need special skills, special language to be able to instruct it or not to do. So macro language and things like this. Not many people have that. What if you could just describe in human language, in English, what exactly you're looking for? And then it gives you that presentation, these charts and all those kind of things.
All right. So what you're telling me essentially that where we are going with technology and what it will be able to do, learning solutions, because usually, you go for the interview and they say, okay, what office can you use? You say, yes, I know how to, I can use Word, I can use an Excel, I can do whatever. Yeah. But what you're saying now is essentially with this technology, for example, I have 1,000 people in my database and I want to categorize them according to who are my clients, who are my prospects, and who has paid, who has not paid kind of thing. You're saying that we can get to a point where I speak to a machine and I say, categorize my clients for me according to A, B, C. And this machine, essentially, in terms of a solution, will give me a file where all of these categories have been done.
That's exactly right. And in fact, I'll take it a step further. Let's say you actually have described your business and your objectives, your KPIs, your targets. And then you have this system that you have deployed within your organization. Let's call it a model, right? A model basically is... what I'll describe is basically a way the machine understands your environment and is able to produce particular types of outcomes, right? But then you have described your objective for your business in summary. You give it a bunch of data. Without you having to say, I want to see 1, 2, 3, it may actually be able to give you the key information that you need to extract from there and even recommend what your marketing plan should be, your product enhancements, the sentiments in the market about your organizations and the services it's producing or providing to the users, because it's able to collate all this from social media and it's able to bring all this information together in a coherent way that now it's making decisions or, let's say, recommendations for you to do 1, 2, 3 as your biggest impact actions. This is where we're getting at now, which even if you look at it from let's say, a different perspective, we have autonomous vehicles today on the roads.
Yes.
Not in Kenya, but they are there. Everybody knows about this. Either personal vehicles that are autonomous or even taxi services that are doing this. A taxi will come and pick you up and there's no driver in it.
Yes.
It will make the decision on how it needs to get to the location you need to go to fastest. You don't need to think about it. You don't need to instruct it. It will make decisions along the way according to what it's seeing. Those are decisions it's making, and really at the end of the day, you're entrusting those that are riding in it, they're entrusting their lives into it. Businesses are going to be doing the same. And in fact, many of them are already doing it, including media houses. And we'll talk about that in a moment in terms of use cases.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. When you talk about the self-drive cars, I've always argued from a legal perspective in terms of liability. Who do you then sue because there was no driver? Do you sue the car? Do you sue the software?
Or the manufacturer?
Do you sue the manufacturer? Who exactly is liable in such an instance? But I think that's a question of now AI manufacturing software liability.
Absolutely.
And the legal conundrum that creates.
Oh, yes.
But mine was on actually security and data protection.
Okay.
We have a machine that is churning out information that is more or less driven by itself, because now it has learned, it has understood what you want as a company. So it is giving you the information you need and it assumes you need.
Yes.
So at what point do we then consider security, privacy? We don't want a situation where potentially now that could be manipulated because it is its own system. So how do you factor that in?
that's a very good question. In fact, let me first of all appreciate your angle about the legal aspect of it. That is, to put it simply, work in progress, because there are really liability questions. It's a conundrum in some cases. Somehow, some jurisdictions have found a way around it, whereby the organization that is deploying this technology is taking that liability, but also they're also arming themselves to ensure that they're limiting their risks as well. So there's a lot of monitoring. Everything is recorded, because sometimes fault can be outside of the system. So they need to actually be able to also identify that and be able to defend themselves. So there's a lot of that aspect of care and auditing and logs and all that kind of stuff, right? However, so AI doesn't exist by itself as an island. It's actually a combination of various systems, which include the security stance of how you manage your data. And that management of data is how you collect it. What is it you're collecting, right? Because there's also privacy aspects to this.
Yeah.
Then how is it being processed to the point where it now can be used by the model to be able to generate, we talk about garbage in, garbage out.
Yes.
And we've seen various iterations of this kind of situation where we talk about hallucinations and things like this on the chat bots, like, the ones that are out in the market today. An example of one, I don't know whether CT was the last time you used a chatbot.
Maybe you want to ask, have I ever used a chatbot?
Okay.
Get a little bit more basic.
I think come back here.
I'll come back here. So if any of you have ever used, I'll relieve you on this one here, but I'll provoke you on some other questions as we go. If you have ever used a chatbot, and I just happened to look Spice FM up, specifically Situation Room, and it's interesting what it was talking about, because in one case, one of those chatbots does not believe Ndu is female. It insists there are 3 men here, and Ndu is a lawyer coming from somewhere, and it insists. I asked for pictures. It gives up. I mean, it's an interesting
misogyny
thing.
Personified. I think even this chatbot is patriarchal society.
Exactly. So to the point, this is a publicly available free service from this chatbot, but let's say you're providing a service to your clients who require or use this data for very specific use cases, which can be legally binding, and you produce information that is not, or this system produces information that's accurate. Ndu is already bringing a lawsuit into this kind of a situation.
Yeah, my representation is to my right.
Yeah, right. So that has a capability of really affecting the confidence of that system, but also could have repercussions even financially. So how do you manage that? It has to be a very carefully managed pipeline of how you manage that data. And really, data is the key. It starts with data. In fact, when I'm going to be describing what Dell Technologies is doing in this area, we really focus on a key area which we have been doing for decades. Dell is a 40-year-old company. Most of that time, we've really been managing data for customers. In fact, most of the critical data in this world is actually on Dell systems, in storage, backup, and things like this, archiving. But how you manage that data into then being able to produce tangible, credible, trustworthy information through this almost autonomous system is very key. Because otherwise, your internal staff, your customers, basically, when you don't trust that system, it's not going to be used.
Okay.
And thus, it's useless based on how much investment you've put in there. And there's a lot of investment that goes into these systems. Yeah.
Before we go to a break, I want you to start to introduce us to some of the solutions that we are talking about. What are some of these things that we are talking about that this intelligence, which you've already established, then is making bare, that we can now say this is a solution, this is a mechanism providing this solution that, that Dell is involved in even today?
Okay. So one of the things I left out about AI is that it's really a general purpose technology solution. When I say general purpose, I've had this mentioned, by the way, that it's akin to electricity. The way electricity came about, right? So there was a lot of resistance, doubt, it's dangerous and all this. In fact, we are in that stage right now. But when I say general purpose, is that it's going to be used in unimaginable ways. We can't really even say these are the 3 ways or 20 or 1 million ways you can use it, because it's really going to be embedded in everything. So what is the solution for AI? Really, what we're talking about here is how do you drive AI within your organization and incorporate it into your processes, into your products, and into your services. This is actually then mostly a service, but it's driven by infrastructure. So Dell is in the space as a technology vendor. And we talk about end-to-end technologies that we've been doing for decades, right? For data center solutions, endpoint solutions. Some of them are here in the studio. Endpoints where basically you are using, or users, myself, I'm using an endpoint that's the most productive tool today in business, which is your laptop or your tablet and things like
Also known as endpoint.
Also known as an endpoint.
Okay.
Also known as an edge device.
Okay.
But this is how humans interface with technology, mostly. Of course, we have mobile devices, but these are the most productive. From there, all the way into what those devices are connecting to in some form of data center, whether it's here or in the cloud. That whole system is where actually AI is running on. And to be able to do that, you need compute power, you need storage, you need networking, you need data protection, you need security, but also you need skill. That packaged together is an AI solution. Right? So we'll be talking about basically what Dell is doing in that space.
Okay.
Yeah.
On that note, let's take a break. We are looking into AI and learning solutions this morning, and Bernard Wanjao is walking us through some of those things and looking at then what are some of those solutions and how then can we get in touch with them. We'll take a break at this point and look at what's happening with weather and traffic at 29 minutes to 9 o'clock. It continues right after this.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
If a lion shows you its teeth, it doesn't mean it likes you.
It doesn't mean it likes you. It won't start.
A liar calls Ben Low, nin inte, nin there, you markati kadikta. You know this character called liar. He has disturbed people. So when you tell him, who are your witnesses, he will take you to a place where it is difficult to verify.
For someone like me who sweats a lot, I cannot survive there. Sweating is biblical. Good. And he must blame it on Adam, not because Adam messed up and he was told, now you fellow you, by the sweat of your brow, thou shalt eat.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
It's critical that people pay taxes. But then taxation has to have a limit. When you start overtaxing people beyond certain limit, then this is now we call robbery with violence.
We are all struggling, but we don't show. If you're not doing well, shame on you. But you have to say, I'm broke and I'm struggling. We are not okay until everybody is okay.
We are pretending to have political parties. Why don't we just be honest? And we say, these are the Luyas, these are the Kambas, these are the Kikuyus, and we find ourselves in Kenya.
You know, with politics and leadership, no matter what you do, there will always be a complaint. There will always be the assumption that you're either stealing or you're not doing things right. As a leader, don't fear. If you know you're doing the right thing, you've thought about it, you've got an expert advice, do it, then understand later.
This country, we don't need prayers. Prayers is between you and God. Good governance and thinkers who care about the country and not their stomach.
That's what we need.
The Situation Room.
Partly cloudy conditions in Nairobi this morning. Highs of 22. We'll see highs of 23 in Nakuru. Highs of 23 as well in Nyeri. Looking at mostly sunny conditions in Eldoret, going to highs of 24. And let's look into a heavy rain situation in Mombasa this morning. 25 degrees and it's 23. And also partly cloudy in Malindi at 27. Into Kisumu, where it's sunny at 23, and Kakamega is sunny at 21. We're looking into a mostly sunny Kampala at 21, and Dar es Salaam this morning is partly sunny at 26. We're looking out into a mostly sunny Mogadishu at 29, and it's 17 and sunny in Addis Ababa. And mostly sunny at 16 in Johannesburg. Lagos is cloudy at 25, and Kinshasa sunny at 23. All right, all kinds of busy throughout the city this morning, coming off the Thika Superhighway. Still heavy as you come off that GSU junction and then through towards the Survey Junction. Kiambu Road still busy. Ruaka Northern Bypass coming in, and everybody joining with what's coming off of Gigiri Road with that construction, and then out towards Limuru Road on one side and then past Pangani on the other side. All right, Langata Road started off really, really busy this morning and likely to continue for a period. All right, we're going to watch out for those two spots right now. Coming off Uhuru Highway shouldn't be too bad, not at this point, but you'll see your pockets of traffic as you get through the morning. We're going to keep an eye on things. Let's talk on Spice FM KE on X and keep things moving this morning.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4.
Artificial intelligence conversation this morning at 24 minutes to 9 o'clock. And Bernard Wanjao is with us this morning from Dell Technologies. And we're trying to understand some of these things. And it's very interesting for me because, you know, we thought of it before as it is a phone. I pick up the call or I dial, I go. It's a laptop. It's a tab. I finish my work, I send it off in an email, that's it. But now you're introducing us to a different concept where you're saying this is an endpoint, that all this technology has taken place. There's been an input of data, there's been the application of the intelligence, and this is now the endpoint of all of this into now some tangible solutions for things that may have posed as issues before. Now, we all are curious as to what exactly some of these things are. What problems would we have before that now Dell is giving us solutions in this space for learning?
Okay, good question. So endpoint, I know I dropped that, and it's really actually a very common industry term in terms of where the technology actually meets the user. And that could be the laptops, the desktop computers, the tablets, the mobile phones. It can be other things like your virtual reality glasses, which are now becoming mainstream. It can be edge devices as well. We also call them edge devices. So edge devices is basically where the human is interacting with the technology. So an edge, I'll take it further, an edge device could be even the vehicle. That's an edge device. You're interacting there physically with this technology. It's also where the human being, the consumer, besides taking in, is also inputting their own content into the system, right? So this is where we're getting pictures coming in, we are typing content and all those kind of things, right? And this all comes together into really data moving between, in various forms, between storage systems or data systems and the users who are using that data for something. And we're trying to figure out from an industry perspective, using AI, which now coming back to this, is how do we most effectively use these huge amounts of data that are being accumulated on a daily, every minute. Right now we are discussing with this video running. There's already AI that's in play because we can have someone transcribing this conversation live, right? In fact, one of your media outlets that you're doing this streaming to is YouTube. YouTube has AI running on it, which is actually able to transcribe live without anyone having to type this information out later.
In form of captions and things like that.
Captions, exactly.
Right, okay.
Right? But then what do you do with that, with that transcription? That's data that can be used to search later. So keywords, there was a topic about endpoint, and it will come out because it's been indexed. All this is happening together. But it's not being thrown away, it's being stored. Later on, we need to then use this intelligently to be able to come up with solutions and services for users that are trying to do something with, whatever they're trying to do, research. They're trying to create a system that is able to describe what has Situation Room been doing this year, right? That kind of a thing. And if I put it on my chatbot, and hopefully I'm using the right prompting, it should be able to summarize to me this year or this month, this is what has happened. This is what Ndu's input was. CT made this kind of, statements and those kind of... See, that's all data that's available. But it's been analyzed and structured in a way that is searchable.
If I could interject. Yeah. That vis-a-vis what we would have to do before, where you would need to have one person who is sifting through hours and hours and hours of footage, hours of audio to be able to find themes. So what we're saying is, if you use the right kind of language, for example, you input it and it will then automatically generate for you what these themes have been over time.
Exactly.
And so that's where you see the solution, that it's time saving, resource saving, and probably resource efficiency and practicability when it comes to looking for something.
That's exactly right. And in fact, now let's talk about a practical use case on this. So I talked about how you have guests coming in, experts, subject matter experts in various fields, and you as a team are there trying to extract some information from them. And you also need to make sure, obviously, that what is coming back to you is factual, something that your audience can actually use. But then you're not experts necessarily in those fields. But how do you then ensure that really what is being discussed is relevant, it's true, and it's also current, right?
Yeah.
So you have some endpoints in front of you there, Ndu, for instance.
Yes.
CT is having an endpoint, as well as Julie is having also an endpoint there.
Yeah.
This may be there waiting for you to input something, but also they could be actively listening in and doing the transcription, but also doing the cross-referencing. So when I say, for instance, Dell is a 40-year-old company. It's a $102 billion annual revenue company, and we are growing as well at a rate of, let's say, 10% quarter on quarter. Those are facts. But then as I'm saying this, it should be something flagging or green saying, okay, everything that's being said here is actually factual, because it's cross-referencing information. It's going to the Dell website, it's looking at the financial reporting, it's looking at various information that's actually out there in the public domain. Because then you'll be able to catch, wait a minute, you're saying this, but you're saying you deployed this, but it's not actually online because it's clearly saying that nothing has been deployed in this area. In fact, we have satellite images right now that are showing it doesn't exist. A project was created, we have already deployed, we've commissioned it, it's live, it's going, everything is working great, right? So those kind of situation awareness.
I see what you did there, and I like it.
So you see how, okay, so this is an example of how the technology can come to bear, because really the information is already there.
Yeah.
What we are missing, which is to your question earlier, is what solution can we bring to bear to be able to then enable you to be using that kind of technology.
Right.
That's where Dell comes in. Now, a quick introduction to Dell. Right. So many of your users may know Dell as the PC laptop company. And there's good reason for that. we are much, much more than this, but this is where our beginnings were from an organization perspective.
Yeah.
So Dell, the man, the founder of Dell Technologies, back in 1984, started actually building PCs, assembling them in his garage. Started off with $1,000 and just started his small company and started building PCs. His vision was basically to ensure that technology is available to all in a cost-effective, reliable, and quick manner. So fast forward, he deployed the first e-commerce platform to sell PCs. So you can basically go online.
Yeah.
At the advent, this was early days of internet. Go online and actually just order your PC and it's delivered to you. This was different from how things were being done before, where you have to go to the shop, look at it, okay, it will come, you come pick it up, or things like those, right? It was a different paradigm, but it was supposed to be really democratizing technology, availing it to everyone. Fast forward to today. I mentioned already the size of the company today, annually. Dell has 133,000 employees around the world. 160 million units are basically shipped in the last 3 years alone, in form of PCs, laptops, servers, storage systems, networking, backup or data protection systems. So basically, what I'm getting at is an end-to-end IT company, not just PCs.
Okay.
Most importantly, I think, besides the products, is also the services. In fact, out of the 133 staff members that Dell has, most of them are actually in the services side, which is the support, R&D, and deployment teams. Because really technology is how to use it as opposed to just having it. So we have a lot of technology on the table here. Like I said, a lot of it is passive. So, but how do we then make it active?
How do you activate it? Yeah.
This is the skill set that comes into play. In terms of R&D, which is basically how we bring value to this, and I'll talk about that because AI is a lot of R&D involved in it. So in the last 3 years, for instance, Dell has invested $7.8 billion, this is factual, on R&D. I'll stop there just to mention that what we're doing on the AI space here, and we believe we are leading in this initiative because organizations are trying to grapple with the question, how do I bring AI to bear to in my organization? I've given a couple of examples, even just here in the media, in the Situation Room. So how do I do it? What we've done is really come up with a way to accelerate that journey to get AI enabled within organizations.
Okay.
By doing what we have been doing quite a lot on other technologies, being able to deploy validated solutions. We package together what I mentioned, which is the computing capabilities, the storage capabilities, the security aspect of things, how interconnect them together from a networking perspective, protection or the data protection of the same, and the services, and package it together into a validated system that we can deploy, let's say here in Standard Group, with your IT team to start actually integrating AI into your daily operations. Now, that's just the infrastructure. What about the data? You already have a lot of data here, both in form of digital format, but also maybe paper or analog or whatever you might not call it, right? That needs to be digitized. Archives. A lot of archives, right? I mean, I would say probably when we say data is oil, a place like this has huge amount of, especially historical.
Yes.
And historical is really wealth because you get to start doing trending predictions because of various things that are recognized within the historical aspect that we haven't thought about. There are patterns to this. Droughts, health issues, and all those kind of things. Initiatives that were tried, didn't work, what happened, what are the lessons learned. All this is documented and it's in the archives. How are you able to then bring that data, curate it, store it in a way that is accessible to that infrastructure for the AI, uptake it, analyze it, create a model, and in fact, don't even create your own model. Use already created model and adapt it to use your data.
Yeah.
So ChatGPT, for instance, is using internet data. But it's a model that can be used to actually use your own information to be able to then provide you a chatbot that gives you your own domain data, your own domain answers. So, for instance, City can go and find out, okay, what's the historical nature of this particular subject in Kenya or within Africa. Give it some parameters.
Yeah.
But within your own archive, it's all going to go outside.
So that search result remains for you?
It's for you, and it's your proprietary product, right? That can also be given as a service to the public, because a lot of the information there may not actually be out in the internet. This is your own, let's say, proprietary data. This is your own collection or your own data that you've stored and you have curated it yourself.
I can see how that would be a solution. Yeah. How would you guarantee that information that you're receiving then is factual?
Okay. So already the good news is, giving this example, taking it further, that a media house like this already has those processes in place. So your journalists already have their own ways of
fact-checking
before they publish.
One would hope.
You will. Right? Yes. So there are those processes in place. Yes. There is another angle to this, which is if you have a model that's running here, there's nothing that stops you from using another model that could be a public one to fact check your own. Actually, you can basically then have a community of AIs that fact check each other. In fact, that's the thinking now in the field, because that's really an issue whereby sometimes even the data internally may not be accurate. So you need to have different perspectives coming in from various systems, but removing the human a bit out of it because of the speed and breadth of the limitations of what human can do. And I'm not saying that in a bad way, but the systems, the computing environment that we are having today is just much more capable than a human brain, as we know today, is able to digest all this information and really analyze it quickly. So other models can be actually used that could be here or outside. They can be used to just fact check according to what is the common knowledge about this kind of topic. And then that can happen. And this can happen instantaneously, really. So what I'm getting at is, how do you get from where we are today at Standard Group, but this could be a bank that's trying to figure out how to do fraud detection. This could be a telco that's trying to figure out what's the next service it needs to really push out to the customers based on the sentiments today of these customers on their current services. All kinds of it could be in healthcare, it could be in agriculture. In fact, we have use cases in all those areas customer stories of how they've actually been able to bring this to bear. So we provide a fast, accelerated way and a really simplified way for organizations, your IT team, your data scientists, to be able to bring that capability to bear. We call them Dell AI validated solutions. So those are a packaged solution that includes also capacity building. Because once we deploy this, besides working with you on the journey, we need to make sure your staff is able to also maintain it. So they're also including educational services. So the full pipeline, and then the life cycle management of that environment. It's an always growing solution because you're having to maintain it and having to ensure that it's staying accurate and there's no, let's say, deviations that are happening because of bad data coming in or bad sources that are coming in, and also it's secure. There are no bad actors that are coming in to manipulate or steal your intellectual.
Right.
So that solution, we do it from a Dell Technologies because we're able to do the whole end-to-end aspect of it. Your journalists are using endpoints today.
Yes.
That could be AI enabled or not. Maybe not, because really what we're bringing to bear, some of these systems, like the laptop you're seeing here, has already AI capability within it. Everything from how it's doing its security, where it knows when I'm looking at it on the screen. If I'm looking away to you, Julie, or to CT, the screen can actually dim itself so that I'm not having anyone else seeing what I'm doing when I'm at the airport, I'm traveling. These are mobile devices, right?
Yes.
So, and how it's optimizing itself, battery usage, because, those are issues on those mobile devices.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Everything you say sounds good.
Thank you.
Sounds, in fact, very, 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 very good. But this is where we are now. Where are we going?
Okay. Various ways of answering this. And I have to put some caveat. So, Siti, if you're bringing any kind of philosophical aspect to this, I will have to come back to Albert Einstein. Okay?
Actually, I am letting you do the thinking and determining how you're going to respond.
Yeah, you didn't ask how Einstein comes
I'm not prefacing anything. Yes.
Okay, very well. Yes. We've covered that point. Where are we going with this? Okay, so innovation, I think it's human nature. The last big innovation in technology, if I could ask the presenters here, who can probably just mention what was the last big innovation, let's say, what popped the last time that you can remember was big news and all this, right? That impacted a lot of people.
Poof.
The internet.
Something.
Internet?
Apart from the internet. The electric vehicle.
A big
electric vehicle.
A mobile phone.
Mobile phone, particularly like which one? The one that started this whole smartphones and...
You want me to name the company?
No. So there's the smartphone, right?
Yeah, the smartphone itself.
Okay. So the innovation aspect of human beings, especially in areas which are relatively easy to innovate, is something which is second nature. What we've been having all along has been computers, and we've been seeing how the performance of these systems have just been increasing and increasing and increasing year after year. In fact, there's a law for it. It's called Moore's law.
Yeah. Where
computing power will double right? But then what do you do with this? Because then there was this aspect of what more could we do? So we've discovered that these systems can actually start emulating the human brain in terms of the computational data processing capabilities. And the human brain is not a small fit. I mean, we are getting a lot of sensory information. We're thinking about things simultaneously. Some multitask better than others. But then why not then start using the compute power that is starting to emulate a lot of how our processes, our own biological processes of thinking, then to do more for us. And when you do more, then we could gain more. So it could be a capitalistic approach, but also it could be convenience, productivity, all that aspect of things. So we are driving, really. It's a natural urge to be able to push the boundaries to see what this can do. The, I think, advantage of AI, in this case, which could be different from, let's say, 5G, that was another one, 4G, then 5G, and all those, right? And you can hear, that tends to have a peak and then starts kind of bottoming out, right? Yeah. But it's there, but it's just not as exciting. That
is true of all technologies.
It's true of all technologies.
Finds its way down.
What's happening is that I say this is general purpose. So we are finding that we are able to apply this AI way of, or this technology to be able in various devices, not just our computers, not just our phones, but in various other things.
Yeah.
So, way forward. Or where are we leading to?
Or as you answer the question on way forward, there are two great conversations in the world.
I know, but I need Bernard to answer that question because we are seconds going to Sophia here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So we're going to be discovering more and more ways that I can't even imagine myself. More and more ways to apply this artificial intelligence, especially when it comes to really creating new things. Right?
I'm concerned about the caution.
And that's where we're going.
Yes.
Creating new things.
The ethics of AI,
the caution
regulation.
of it. The limitations
of all of this.
So the concerns are real.
Consequences.
And those are the conversations that I think that we now then get into, and how it's going to affect us, human beings, and what we can actually do to take advantage and also go forward.
Exactly.
Bernard Wanjao is the Data Center Solutions Specialist at Dell Technologies, has been our guest this hour talking about AI. Thank you so much for being here this morning. Asante. It's 9 a.m.
Good morning. This is the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga. A residential apartment in Mlolongo, Machakos County is on fire. Athi River East Sub-County Police Commander Anderson Bae says his officers are already at the scene and have mobilized rescue response services to restore the situation. The police boss says that the fire had been caused by a gas explosion. 8 suspects involved in $439 trillion mega fraud targeting 2 foreign businessmen from the Netherlands have been arrested by the DCI. Moses Otieno, Peter Aura, Brian Maweru, John Kalombo, Peter Kisanya, Noah Ouma, Charity Nyeri and Mercy Chepto, who've been on DCI's radar, were arrested on Wednesday and are in police custody as investigations continue. The DCI says several boxes stashed with fake US dollars, suspected stolen jungle fatigues for AP officers and military boots, as well as customs reflector jackets, among others, were recovered during the incident. Narok Senator Ladama Olekina has recommended 2 ways in which Meru County can be saved. In a statement, the senator said Senate should engage in a building capacity workshop with the County Assembly of Meru. Ladama said that if the engagement wouldn't be possible, then Senate can ask President William Ruto to suspend the county and conduct fresh elections for the positions. This event comes as over 15 Meru residents have filed a petition at the County Assembly seeking to impeach executive committee members of Governor Kawira Mwangaza's cabinet for allegedly violating the constitution. Long-distance drivers have been asked to be more careful and comply with traffic rules during the festive season in order to reduce the number of road accidents. Uasin Gishu Transport CEC Joseph Lagat says that traffic officers will be stationed along roads to ensure safety.
For our drivers, I want to appeal to you that let us be careful, let us be more responsible during this festive period. Let us not drink and drive. This is a time that we tend to experience more accidents and incidences on our roads. So let us be responsible, and particularly our drivers, let us be responsible. Let us obey the traffic rules. We work very closely with the security agencies, the traffic department, so that we have a safe festive season.
Former Mandera Senator Bill Carroll says any new policy introduced by the government must be examined on its impact on the cost of living. Carroll says that the Kenya Kwanza government has failed to examine this factor and continues to introduce new charges without involving the public.
There seems to be a disconnect between public servants and the situation on the ground, the reality on the ground, the way Kenyans are suffering. So every department comes up and says, we want to charge this, and we want to charge this, and we want to do this. They don't look at the impact on the cost of living. For example, this week alone, IDs, Minister of Internal Security, then the Ministry of Land revising fees, APA announcing review of the rates. Then we had the Ministry for Roads announcing, the CS Roads announcing that they're going to start charging toll charges on major highways. This is only this week alone. KRA on all small goods. And this is happening every week. There seems to be a desperation by the government to collect revenue.
He further says that Kenyans have been paying taxes for the same services they're being highly charged.
But the irony is that governments are there to provide services to public. This is why I agree with the opposition leader Raila that we are not supposed to pay for every service that we get from public service. That's why we pay tax. We pay tax to government so that they can provide services. That's why when you go to a government office, you expect to be given service. You cannot be paying taxes, paying that officer sitting there, your salaries and everything. And when you go for service, you are again being told to pay for that particular service. Pay for this ID, pay for this form, for this transaction. Every activity that the government officer is doing for you, you pay for it again. This is madness.
And in the courts, former Lamu Senator Anwar Loy Tip Tip is expected to take a plea over fraud charges after a warrant of arrest was issued against him by Senior Principal Magistrate Dolphin Alego. He is to answer charges relating to uttering a false document. At the Anti-Corruption Court, the 43 million shillings graft case facing ex-MP Elizabeth Ongoro and her husband Masha Kenga will be mentioned today. A new magistrate has since taken over the case following the transfer of Peter Ooko, who was seized of the matter. 15 witnesses have so far testified, and according to the prosecution, about 20 witnesses are remaining to give their testimony. That's the Newswire. I'm Leah Obaka.
.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
You tuned into Kenya's biggest conversation. My name is Ramanya.
Amen.
Amen.
So 1 hour is over?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It gets over
Can you imagine
in 20 minutes.
what the big boys have also done?
I'm very proud of myself.
When you understand about partnership in politics, it's like the way marriage is these days. When you're looking for a wife, you're like, maybe you can help me pay for fees as I pay for the rent.
Why should you have a lioness living in your bedroom?
I have to tell you a story. I went for a prayer meeting, which was called for the spouses of candidates for senators and governors. And when I got to the gate, the lady who was the secretary, she refused to. She's telling me, no. Leo tunataka wa mama. Leo ni wa mama. I'm telling her, no. She said, no, sio siku yenu. And I thought, there's a problem here, because if it was a man, but this was a lady.
It will be called First Ladies until you change the name.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
3, 2.
Everybody, welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation.
Heri Latifa, Muga, Madam Du, nimesalamia wote sana.
Tumepokea salamu, asante sana.
Hapa Garissa today the weather is very good, only that baridi inatupeleka mbio sana.
Sasa baridi ni degree ngapi hapo?
Hata sijui, lakini madam tunakauka sana.
If you want to follow the money trail, you've got to think like a thief to be able to catch that thief.
A slap from a friend is better than a kiss from an enemy. You remember the kiss of Judas Iscariot?
Yes.
He's the one that imetuweka kwa hii mashida yote na mataabu kwa sababu of that kiss. Yet the slap of Jesus Christ, when he slapped those guys wenye walikuwa wanauza mboga ndani ya kanisa, took them to heaven.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
All right, where are we? At a few minutes after 9, traffic still continues. It started late today. That means it's going to probably end late this morning. We're still looking at some drama here and there on Kiambu Road. And as you're getting into the city, if you're coming off Langata Road, it's still packed. Raila Odinga Way taking some of that, going towards Gong Road. And it's still also very busy coming on Limuru Road this morning. Quite some of it. Uhuru Highway, very busy. All your junctions. As you're coming in from Langata Road, on the left, if you're coming from Mombasa Road, on the right, Lusaka, and then Bunyala, and then going towards Haile Selassie. It's going to slow down at all of these joints as you get to the city and then out towards Westlands. Okay. So this is what we'll just have to watch for now. Everything else seems to be settling down. We'll take a look in about half an hour and see how that has cooled off. We'll talk on Spice FM in the meantime. Spice FM KE on X.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start
It's
your
9
day.
after 9 for the second day in a row, exactly 9 minutes after 9. Here we are coming into the third hour, rather the fourth hour of Kenya's biggest conversation this morning. And as we get into it, we're looking at a security conversation and what's really happening. It's been perennial, it's been long, and it's still going on. We're going into that in a bit. Kiwi says, step up and shine regardless of what's happening around you. You can at least be smart when you're going to school, going to other places, going to work. Step up and shine with Kiwi. Step up and shine in how you can pay your school fees come January 2024. And what can you do? Walk into any supermarket today and buy the Kiwi that looks just so. And then you're going to dial *459 *5# and input the code that you will find once you pop the lid. You'll win instant data and airtime. Fantastic stuff. You will also then get a chance to be entered into the draw whereby you will be able to win 35,000 shillings to go towards school fees for 4 people winning every week. And I think it's good stuff. And all you need to do is walk into a store today and purchase a tin of Kiwi. Right. Julie, you'll buy, Abby?
I will. It's interesting. I might just win something. And with this economy, I need to win something.
No, not might. If you win, you'll definitely get airtime. You will get data and then your school fees. And if it doesn't even necessarily just have to be for you, you can give it to somebody else. With this economy, somebody will have need for something.
Yes.
Abby? Yes. All right. This hour, our guest is Women Representative, Baringo County, Florence Jematia Sergon. Weshimiwa, good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, I say it again. Edna did magic. That you are seated in the hot seat this morning.
Yes.
It's fantastic.
In person. Not a representative.
Having been looked for like gold.
Oh, I'm telling you. Sorry.
It needed to happen. So it's great to see you.
Thank you so much. I've been yearning to be in Spice for the longest. I don't know where people have been. I mean, Edna. And I went to my messages. Actually, I realized it's been looking for me a whole year.
Imagine a year. The woman has been looking for you for a year. We have to say something about Edna's resilience, I must say. We can't put that one to bed. So, look, we're glad to have you here.
Thank you so much.
And it's really good to have you because, obviously, when it comes to the situation in Baringo, as with other parts of the country, important to discuss and look at what local leaders and local representation are doing about that. Let's welcome you properly to the Situation Room this morning, even as you sit in the hot seat. And City has a proverb from DR Congo.
Yes, proverbs for the whole of this week and then tomorrow from DRC.
Yeah.
You inherit from the dead and not the sick.
From the dead?
Not the sick.
Not the sick. What do you make of that?
Okay. Wisdom or something.
Mm-hmm.
What is it? How does it?
They
resonate?
say the richest place is in the grave. So where people get we inherit our people who died get a lot of proverbs from them, inspiration from them. We always go back to those who
our forebears, people who are no longer there physically.
Yes.
But whatever it is that they left us with.
So we quote them so much and what they used to do and give examples.
Well, isn't that an interesting perspective?
I know. It's interesting because different, very fresh. Yeah. Indeed. It's actually the grave where you find the greatest wealth.
Yes. So we inherit from them.
We inherit from them.
And pick them.
Well, there's a lot going on in Baringo.
Yes.
The county itself, but then also borders of the county, periphery, and unfortunately, When we hear Baringo, it has always almost become synonymous with this insecurity. Before we get into, who's said what, who has not, what interventions have taken place, what is the situation on the ground today? We know there have been flare-ups. There were scares in October when KCPE was being written, and we were asking questions, how are children going to sit these exams when they're not even sure if they can leave their homes because of the insecurity situation? So where are we today, Mheshimiwa?
Thank you so much. Once again, I want to say I'm happy to be in the hot seat. Baringo is also quite hot. But we thank God, the situation now is relatively calm, but unpredictable. So we've come from far. We've come from so insecure times where you're not very sure whether you can wake up tomorrow and you're okay. And banditry has been a real menace in Baringo. But not only Baringo, what gives Baringo the banditry name is because it is the epicenter of the banditry. Because we have a very beautiful tribe called the Pokots who resides in Baringo, and they attack, quote unquote, not all of them, of course, the surroundings. So everyone who lives within that constituency called Tiati is a complainant. And you realize for the longest, during the time of Kenyatta, Moi's time, the longest time, and Moi, you remember, comes from Baringo too. We have Kibaki, we have Uhuru Kenyatta, and now we have Ruto. And I think the more it happens and the more time goes, is the awareness that the people get about this banditry thing. It started as a traditional way of life. Pastoralists generally, are cows or cattle keepers, and they use it as a means of survival, means of day-to-day life, like economy. But they also use it in a traditional way, where when your son or daughter gets married, we use that as dowry. So the biggest part is it is used as a pricing. The highest dowry, numbers of cows. My daughter gets, or I get it from my daughter, is what gives me the name into society. So it's a long thing. I grew up knowing that this thing was a normal thing. I could go, Morani from these sides, go raid there, we bring home, tomorrow they wake up, they go do that. But it has been commercialized in a way, and it's now becoming a problem because killing is involved. Those days never used to kill. It used to be tactical. You wait when your cows are in the river, probably you go and, scare, take a beat. But now, I think because of the economy also, things change. And those people who didn't need it for that purpose now went for it because of money. And money is is a devil. Now it became a real commercial problem.
Yeah.
And this one escalated so much during Kibaki's regime. And then it picked up also throughout Presidents Uhuru and Nyeri. We're still here. Yes. So there's a whole community like the Tugans who borders Tiati. They have been moved almost 60 kilometers inside. And there's no one lives in that area. So almost 20,000 people have been moved.
To where?
You're being attacked.
Have they moved because of the violence?
Yeah.
Or have they just
the bandits come, attack your village. Of course, they steal your cows, they kill, people around the village, and definitely you'll have to go away or
so you
migrate.
Simply move away from this danger.
Yes, you move from the danger, and then apparently these people live in your homes.
Okay, so
forced migration due to conflict.
Forced migration, exactly.
Usually, in an area doesn't matter how vast it is.
Yep.
That if there is a repeat of such banditry, because it's been repetitive over years.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
People know who the bandits are.
Exactly.
Or who controls them.
Exactly.
Who are they?
Who are they? Okay.
Can we start with where do they come from? Because there is a story that they are Pokot.
Yep.
You talk to people from Pokot, they say, no, some of these bandits.
They're not us.
They're not saying it.
They're not saying it's not them.
Bandits.
But they're saying not all of them is us.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. So, okay. I started by saying Baringo is synonymous by the name banditry because it is the epicenter. This is a county that has the Pokots living. We know we have the West Pokot County, which is predominantly West Pokots. And then we have the Baringo, which has a small sizable Pokots, which are mainly in Tiati. And they also border West Pokot. They border Turkana, they border Samburu, Laikipia, and now mainly the Tugen parts of Baringo.
So this is an entire ecosystem.
Yes.
That pastoralists inhabit.
Exactly. It's a whole valley. It's one of the best places you can ever be.
Yeah.
Yes.
Best.
It's so good. It is.
It's a melting pot of cultures, as you're trying to say. Okay.
And if you fly over, for instance, in those area of the valley, it has the best topical.
It is beautiful.
It is so beautiful.
Yes, it is.
The vastness, the greening along the rivers and all those kind of things. So the space is so big. So, and that is why it is conducive for pastoralists. So, in the initial times, on all days, we used to be brothers, big brothers, sisters everywhere. I can graze all the way from Elgeyo Marakwet down to almost Samburu. And Turkanas from the upper north come all the way towards Baringo to a place called Kapedo because that's where they have. And all the way to the border of Kenya, Uganda.
Yeah.
Because that is the border.
So it's a beautiful place.
It's a very nice
mix of cultures.
Exactly.
But the banditry still happens. And my question again,
yes.
Who are these people?
The beneficiaries of bandits are the people who control the markets. The people who realize that there is a what do you call? They use a situation like the freeness of the community. You have cows, you have probably having your issues. And then, there's always some few people who will always decide, we can steal these cows. And it's such as a joke. And then you look for markets. And markets are always available. Because these are money, ready money. If I steal 100 cows, I sell it for probably each 50 or 30. And one off, I get my money. So it is so there are many politicians are involved. Yes. We also have business people probably who are involved. The owners of the guns. People want to sell their guns because through the guns is when you are now able to, scare the community, kill the people and take their wealth. So it is a whole bouquet of...
You know why we Julie want to ask a question.
Yes. I actually wanted to ask
Julie,
a question around what you have responded to.
Yes.
And it seems as though it's a well-designed ecosystem because when you steal 100 cows...
Yeah.
You are likely to see 100 cows in movement.
Or even 3 left.
Or even 3.
Yeah.
Even one.
You know how difficult it is to move one cow?
Hide one cow.
Yes.
To hide, that nobody will see it.
Exactly. So where is the security intelligence? Where are the people who are manning the various roadblocks that are there?
Yes.
Even where there are witnesses, simple witnesses who say that I saw cows moving, because it feels as though all this is happening, yet it's such a huge movable item that people should be able to say, we can see them and we know where they have gone and we know who was in charge of the trade.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So let me just be very candid here. I want to speak as a politician. And I also want to speak as a victim of bandits because I come from the Tugen parts. And I also want to speak as the leader of Baringo. before I became a leader of Baringo, or the woman of Baringo, I came face to face to the wrath of bandits. Because, as you say, importantly, these are the sides of the Tugens and the El Chamus. Effect came in 2002, 2005, thereabouts. We used to live in Baringo without this menace. But you used to hear it from the Turkana versus the Pokots and the Elgeyo and those. So this thing started, and it became so intensive because it turned out to be a business. At that time, Honorable Kamama was a member of Parliament, TRT. And of course, when I'm a member of Parliament, I know my surrounding. I know my area. I know my people. Even now, as a member of Parliament, Baringo County, I know people in Baringo County. I know who are these. So the community surrounding confronted him and told him, "You are the ones who is funding this thing," and we realized that it was an orchestrated behavior within the community because it was allowed in the community. I go raid, kill people, bring these cows to the community. People celebrate
them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, when young men go bring raid and bring the cows to the village, we celebrate. There are a lot of allulations. Women enjoy. I mean, my son has conquered and all those that kind of thing. And then, of course, the young men get opportunity to marry more women because you have cows. And then it is celebrated within the community. So that is a behavior that has been condoned there. And now you have these other people who are business-minded, who are ready to sell these cows and get money. So, and it is the intelligence apparatus are giving us a lot of information, and we used to give all those information those days, that now we have business people, not only within the community, but probably within the neighboring community, Nairobi, for instance, and also security apparatus. Because as you say, there's no way I can move 100 cows and it get lost. So there must be lorries involved at vantage points where you drive these cows and they are loaded in probably vehicles and driven away. There are also the people markets around there, like in Samburu we have very big market called Sibili, where they sell cows, or auctions all the time, probably once or twice a week. So it became a ripe business for people, and they use the community, because when the community get money, it's easy for you to hide and do more. It becomes enticing. So you push this community, those who you are raiding, and we ended up these bandits ended up raiding everyone within their surrounding. So you push people, and as they push, they live there. So you move, and then they graze the cows right from your village, and then they will be controlling that kind of thing. So poverty and everything become a whole problem.
So you're saying that it's easy to then be able to come and manipulate people in the community and give them a little bit of money so that they can allow for the bandits to essentially, quote unquote, allow the banditry to thrive. They come, they take cattle, they move it because they've received something in their pocket. Is that what you're saying is the business that's going on? It
is not like they, bandits are like thieves.
They are thieves.
They are thieves, yeah.
They're just very violent thieves, but they're thieves.
These are violent thieves.
Yeah.
But of course, these are thieves who are coming from a community. I mean, even if I live in Nairobi, yeah, when there's a thief within us, we'll always know there's a thief here.
But I mean, if you look at what happens, I mean, and I'm just going to interject. Look at what happens when, for example, police are going after somebody who they know operates in a particular area. Who do they go to talk to? They talk to the people in the area, and the people know. Yes, we know that this is the son of or the daughter of XXX who does this, which is why my initial question came that the people of the community must know.
They know
who these individuals are.
Even the chiefs know. And they actually, to some extent, have given out those names. But the problem is, when when they, like the informers of government, give names, and they are not arrested.
Why?
That's the problem. They're not arrested. And actually, there are bandits in that region has never been arrested. Because I think the complaint is, and I asked several times, when you arrest them, because some of them can be arrested, have been arrested.
And then they let go of.
Exactly, because the people, there are no evidences. Because they always care, even the community.
But we've had situations where I remember once we read in the paper how some were arrested. The other members of the gang came.
That was in Elgeyo Marakwet.
And it was not at night.
Daytime.
During the day.
Broad day.
They were actually in the hospital.
Light.
Yes. They came to pick their
leader from the hospital.
The hospital. So, this thing is an entrenched problem. And it is true, the members of the society know most of them. And what government today have done is to eliminate them through the same system by empowering the community through NPRs. You know, these are members of the society that have been empowered by, you know, given guns and bullets.
Are they trained?
Yes, trained and given some stipends by government, and it's controlled through the RDUs and the security apparatus that works within the community. We have RDUs camps in our areas, so those are the ones that picks and helps these police and GSUs when they go and identify these people.
So when they identify them, what do they do?
Many times they kill
the bandits.
Yeah.
But then others will rise up.
That is it. So the thing is just like dealing with drugs. Because when you go for the peddlers, they'll always be recruited.
Mweshima, let's take a break at this point, please, so that we can then come back and look at this in depth, because it's really baffling in terms of what happens with security operations that go into this area all the time. And this still continues. Women Representative Baringo County, Florence Segon is our guest this hour, and we're looking at the insecurity issue in Baringo and its surroundings and really what ought to be done about that. It's 29 minutes to 10 o'clock. Conversation continues after this break.
Thank you very much, Eric, and it's good to be at the Situation Room.
Always a pleasure coming here. This is the most challenging interview panel in Kenya. You guys are very well informed, and as you can see, Charles today, very philosophical.
To be poor in this country is the greatest sin you can commit, not just from a legal perspective, but from life generally. It is very, very skewed.
We just heard on the floor of Parliament, just most recently, a leader within the ODM saying that Sisi ni ng'ombe is a baba.
Yeah.
Which means that you are willing to be milked dry. Hapo.
You cannot force me to believe. I'll give way. If it's land that I'm told to return to you, I will. Okay? Because the court has said so. But I'll continue saying, watu wamenirusha. That's all that I'm doing.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
$18 degrees, partly sunny conditions in Nairobi, and 20 degrees and sunny in Nakuru, 19 and partly sunny in Nyeri, and we'll look at 11 degrees and partly sunny going to highs of 24 in Eldoret. It's 26 in Mombasa after the rain and 27 in Malindi. And we're looking at sunny conditions at 25 in Kisumu and 23 in Kakamega. Into Kampala, it's sunny at 22, and Dar es Salaam is cloudy at 28 with sunny conditions at 29 in Mogadishu and 19 in Addis Ababa. It's cloudy now in Lagos and sunny at 18 in Johannesburg with 25 and sunny in Kinshasa. Okay, we're coming to the end of traffic hour. We'll see just a little bit of that left here and there. Langata Road will still end up with some, even at this point, but it looks good today coming out of Westlands. You've done well. Off the Thika Superhighway, traffic then coming through just at Pangani, but I think the most of it has come to an end. Uhuru Highway, we'll see bits and bobs of that as we go through the morning. Through the morning, still talk to us, Spice FM, KE on X.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
To 10 o'clock. And as we continue with this conversation, welcome to our audiences on KTN News this morning as well. Looking at the security situation in Baringo, Mweshimiwa, as we went to the break, you said to us that it's known who these individuals are. Security operations apparatus set up. They kill some of the bandits, but then others come through. CT had a question about that because I'm now trying to understand. It seems to be a repetitive cycle. Come, take care, go back, call again. A CS visits, goes back. Presidents at some point visits in the previous administration, and this one as well. But we're still in the same spot.
Exactly.
Who, first of all, is in the position of making decisions as to who to deploy and what is that needs to be done? You see, if you look at the anatomy of corruption or impunity in this country, it's where I would start if I want to understand the situation, because you're not telling me that the banditry we read of can exist in these parts of the country and it continues unabated all this time. And yet, if you are to look at something as simple and something we've dealt with as terrorism with Al-Shabaab, and it is clear they've been contained.
Yep.
And that is a far more lethal group. These ones aren't stealing cattle. These people come to kill people. That is their motive. They're not coming to take your cattle. They want to kill. They want to decimate. They want to destroy things. And we've contained it. So how did we do that? What is it that we've been doing? And then you're telling me a group of people who clearly come from a community, and if they do, they must be known within the community, and you're telling me none get arrested. This problem, Uganda had a similar problem with the Pokot on their side.
Yes.
Similar.
Yes.
And remember, when Idi Amin left, many of his soldiers moved to that area. So these people were even better armed than our own people on this side.
Even now, they're still armed.
Yes.
Better
but that thing, do you hear even a squeak? No. Because that government wanted a solution, and they came and sought and thought, and they provided the solution.
Thank you. Yes. And that is where we are in this government today. You know, as I told you, some of us grew knowing this bandit existed. But there was the direct attacking of the bandits through killing and all those kind of things. And then we realized marginalization was a big problem too. Yes. You know why? It is easy to run away from taking responsibility of people who they seem like they don't respond to what you want, like when they always disobey the laws and all those kind of things. These bandits, most of them, there is a whole chunk of areas in those areas that has people with no IDs. There are no administrations.
Education?
There is zero education. And not because the government don't want to help them. It's because that community is so ingrained with their traditions. They believe so much in their traditions. They don't care about education. But the few who have gone to school are so good in class. And they are very good citizens, of course. So, for the longest, just like I'm saying, they had not been, during Moi's time and probably Uhuru's and Kibaki, very minimal development in that area. And you know, people grow and they breed every day. So there are a lot of people who have not gone to school. Like in, for instance, Tiati, this is a children thing, it's called UNICEF. Give me a statistic that over 30,000 children are not going to school. That is the
that is a place that has the highest number of teenage pregnancies.
Is it because there are no schools or because the people refuse to attend the schools that exist?
It is two ways.
Okay.
No infrastructures in those areas, like schools. And their community also don't believe in going to schools. So those days, Mo used to beat people. I mean, using the chiefs and all this. But the constitution today cannot allow you to go and, round up children and take them to school by force. So the community enjoys that illiteracy level. And now the leaders take advantage of them to manipulate them.
I'm curious about that because ideally, well, I'm not saying you can't force them, but ideally the best interest of the child can be used as a principle to allow you to make sure that children go to school. But then also the appetite for them to want to go to school, yet they're seeing their seniors not in school and profiteering will not be there because they don't need
and this banditry thing is a real ingredient for them, because I go and steal, get money or get wealth, and I go and marry. I mean, it's a free life for them.
Why do you need to go to school?
Why do I need to go to school? I still eat, to them it is a secondary. But unless there's a need for them or a push for them through government of the day to force them to go to school so that they understand there's another life beyond their village lives. You see, they do a lot of traditional songs. When you listen to their folk songs, and it is an enjoyment. It's just like going to clubs and people go there and they get lost. It's because it's their lives. But what started with President Uhuru started doing is to start identifying areas that they can start pick and do schools. But unfortunately, again, and I want to say it's leadership, because we have CDFs, for instance. We have infrastructural money that goes to counties and constituencies. But then these leaders of these places don't empower them, and they don't, as you say, politics is a very weird thing. It is, how can I control more? How can I be in charge? And when you get situations where you have many people who have not gone to school and literacy levels are very down, it is a easy ride.
It's easy to manipulate.
Exactly.
To do what you want.
You think for them and do for them. You can even decide to do whatever thing that you want. And that is where the government of William Ruto decided, for the first time, we want to use more this approach of development at the expense of killing, because many people have been killed, by the way. The revenge is even more, it is more worse than when you are really trying to seize the cows. Because even if a police or these police units go and, they do the raids, alafu wanachukua ng'ombe, they will come for that community 3 or 4 times harder. So it becomes more painful, because even if the police is trying to recover these cows, they might not recover all of them. But when they come for another attack, they will attack this community so badly that it leaves the community so devastated. So what is happening now is we are opening security roads, and KDF are building schools now. Building schools and dispensaries. So they have started with the Tiati area, which is now opening. Almost 4 schools are being built.
It's interesting that you say that, because at some point, a couple of years ago, the MP for Tiati actually did have a conversation with us talking about the fact that ECD schools don't exist. That they had to look for them. You had to look to find one. So that some are being built, because we need to make the connection, Weshimiwa, haven't we? If we're saying that there is a breeding ground for this banditry that has put this community in years of turmoil, and the reason why this thrives is because education at a loss. People are not, really interested. So then it is clear to me what one of the solutions should be. That schools, in terms of infrastructure, need to be established, number one, and then there needs to be a push, not just from the national level, because we have down to the granular representation of leadership, members of county assemblies, members of parliament, whether it's your woman rep, whether it is your constituency representative,
even chiefs,
chiefs, ngaos, who need to insist that let's get up and go, because it looks to me that it is an inroad to a solution for this thing, because it's been there for decades. It's not something that just crept out of nowhere. It's been there for decades. So then where is the push? Do we see the push? Where is the push to then insist that this basic thing is established and it is actually that, look, we're not saying round people up like cattle and beat them up and tell them to go to school, but there's got to be something, advocacy, awareness, campaigns whereby it becomes a thing, mantra.
It is
come and go to school.
Yes, it is happening now. We are actually using the professionals, those who are learned in those areas, and we are amalgamating all tribes, the Tugans, the Pokots, the Turkanas, the Elgeyo Marakwets, all of us who originally come from that area must take the responsibility to go and talk to these people. Of course, the biggest problem now, for instance, is we are closed. The schools are closed.
Yes.
Do you know this is a time that bandits is happening because the children, most of them are home, and those are the little ones, because these people grew with guns. So this is the biggest problem is sometimes it is easier to say we can do it than to do, unless and until you are there, and then we realize you can only actually kill the whole generation. Another thing that we have decided is we have told the government, and I know this probably is going to be a big uproar in the future. Through KDF, as they build these schools, they should take a generation, probably 10 years or 15 years down. Please, build these schools, fence them, put these children in boarding school for at least 3 years. You know why? It minimizes the interaction with the society. Because every time they go out, like for them when they go for circumcision, they can go for a whole year.
What do you mean?
Yes.
Go for circumcision for a year?
They leave school,
I don't understand.
go into the
It is important than school.
But circumcision is
it's around a month or two.
Yeah.
But
so are we talking about processes in and around?
Yes. So the society, and you know, we have, you know, there are this societal old men who believe that we are in charge. I mean, because government are not there, they are not chiefs. And if you know the way we employ our chiefs now, you have to go to school from 4 to do at those areas. The identification of a real leader is you must have many wives. You know? Yes. You must be old enough and you must have the charisma in that area. And they have their own way of identifying who is the best leader.
Charismatic or not. Okay.
So if you are a chief and you come from our centers there and
you will be talking to yourself.
You will be talking to yourself. Actually, no one will even get to listen to you.
Do we then need to, how do you put it, have a complete shift in how we think and how we address this issue? Because I feel like not only do we need the leaders and the professionals who have already gotten the education to come and speak to the younger people, but we also need to appreciate that community leaders and people of distinction and value in the community have a sway. And and if they continue holding dear beliefs that are detrimental,
they even believe in sorcery. You know them, they don't go to church. They have no churches there.
Mosques?
Yes. There are no mosques, there's no churches, there's nothing.
They're traditional.
They believe their traditions. Yes.
But you know, this is a lovely discussion. The reason why it is because when we talk about pastoral communities, what you're saying is true of the Samburu, it's true of the
Turkanas.
You go to Laikipia, where there's Samburu. Same.
Yes.
Both county of Samburu.
Yes.
Again, same things. You'll find indicators. Schools, traditions, all those things. But we have a community in this country who are also pastoralists who have changed.
Yeah.
The Somali community.
Yes.
Go back 20 years, you could be saying the same story.
Exactly.
But that's not the story now.
Yeah.
You actually have a model that you can look at and study.
Thank you.
They have evolved, and if someone were to tell you this is a pastoralist community, you say, no, these are business people. There are some of them who are pastoralists, but they're business people. What did they do? Because they also have traditions.
Yes.
They also listen to their elders.
And they still marry more.
Yeah, they most certainly do.
Their religions is, yes.
You would think it's a competition.
Yes.
Okay? So, you cannot say that they've changed.
Yeah.
But they build schools, children go to school, and they want to make sure that they get the best education.
Exactly.
Okay. And the natural resources that they have, one could argue where they come from, is even less than the natural resources that are in the regions that we're talking about now.
Exactly. So how then do we strike that balance whereby you hold dear your traditions,
Exactly.
but at the same time you allow for a shift?
No, the change agents are those traditional leaders.
Yes.
Not the leaders whom the
Who have gone
government
to school.
think should be the leaders, or those who have gone to school think should be the leaders. You work to bring change to a community. You must understand how it is they go about their business and allow that change to fit in with the way they do their things. But you can't, it's not an implant.
You can't implant, like me,
it will not
if
work.
I go to that community and speak to them, they can't even listen to me. I am their leader, yes.
Because you're a woman.
Yeah, I'm a woman, one. Two, they don't, they even wonder why, who chose that? Who chose this one?
Who is she?
Who is she?
Okay. So who would they listen to?
They listen to
one of their
men
own.
and most of them. And for now, we have pushed it to some levels where the leaders, elected leaders from that area, probably, for instance, Honorable Kamket, we have told him he has to take that mantle because he's he's the goodness about that community again. Once you are a leader,
Kamket is listened to.
Yes, he's listened to very well because one thing I like about that community or our communities is once you are elevated, they take you up and they appreciate you. So leaders from that community are the key ingredients and the real solution that is going to help us. And we are, for the longest, we can decide to whine and say, no, we don't care about these people, they are bad people. But this is a problem that is never going to end because we are complaining. So we have also bite our bullet and tell our community, we have been crying for long. Can we have some little time to listen to how we can sort out this problem from the community? And as you have very rightfully put it, we have gone now to talk to wazes to even allow their girls not to be cut because immediately they're cut 13 years.
Their wives.
And they are married by very old people. Your age and the rest.
I knew you were going to go there.
and it is a celebration. It is so easy to accuse them because we are here sitting in the city.
Sure. Yeah.
But unless you are there, and you find these people have no problem actually. It is you who have a problem. Yes.
So okay? So even this security issue that we're all shouting everywhere, making noise, it's not an issue.
It's not an issue in that community.
Yeah. For those who unfortunately
being
are
attacked,
victims,
yes,
it of course
it's
is
becoming
an
a problem,
issue.
and it's now becoming a problem, and it's also becoming a big problem to all of us.
Yeah,
we are taxpayers, so you end up using a lot of money, taking police to that area. I mean, wasting a lot of resources.
So what I hear you saying essentially is that all of these security operations, one, we hear CS is flying everywhere. We hear that army is being deployed. We hear that KDF is going to be put within a 10-kilometer radius, 2x2 kind of thing. It actually then is futile. Because
it can be futile
because they don't have an understanding of the problem. Okay.
Yes. So I think they do though. This is the problem.
Yeah, that's the thing.
And then they think, I was one of them, by the way. I was arrested at some point because I told people we are going to buy guns to sort out this.
No, in fact, you were arrested because you suggested. Yes. And can you imagine me telling you what you said? Anyway, but you said that since you're not going to come in and do it the way we understand it, then allow us to be armed.
Exactly.
So that we can take care of the situation.
I told the government, if you are not able to do it, let's do it. And it was going to, and it's the same thing that is actually happening now because the government did not exactly did what I said, but they helped the community to harm themselves through organized NPR, and we're actually doing it. But do you know, as we do that, we also give an alternative. We are doing farming now. We are farming. We are doing beekeeping. Because the bandits were terrorizing everyone, dropping all those our beehives. We had a small factory there. Wakuja wakabomoa. The boreholes that are built by government, they stacked stones there. So you have to migrate. But now we are coming back with our NPR on both sides. Even the Pokos, because we are also reformed bandits and people of the community who have reformed, we also need to give them NPR so that they can help when a situation like this happens, we are able to coordinate because we still have a lot of illegal arms and guns in the hands of the bandits.
And I was actually about to ask that because everyone is getting armed.
Yes.
We then have a situation where there is the proliferation of small arms and
a lot
weapons.
Yes.
So how then do we ensure that everyone who is armed is accountable? Because
the
at that point in time,
both these they were probably the politicians when we were asking for votes those days. So but this is now becoming against them.
Mashima, did you buy any guns yourself?
I would advise you not to answer the question on air. Just
Of course I can't.
No, she opened that door.
Who are we but to
you know
walk
why?
through it?
Exactly. And we are in a hot seat.
Yes.
We are in a hot seat.
But no, we can be honest here because look, we must be honest.
Because
here.
there's no,
You've talked about a community whereby individuals who've not were uneducated even at the basic level,
and
depend
they can
on
access
stealing.
guns
But
and not
somehow you can access an
guns
AK-47
and not a pen and a book,
which is 96,000 shillings.
Yes.
96,000 shillings
$100,000
for one.
Yes.
So
And
the
you
business
haven't
of
gone to what the
conflict
bullet
is not
costs.
Exactly.
The business of conflict is not
and
cheap.
you know
So
me,
where
I
are they
am
getting it from?
frank, and I've told them several times. If you listen to my clips all the time by their own security, I said this: there is no way I can open up a kiosk selling bread, and I don't sell my bread, and I still open this kiosk. So someone must be buying this bread every day for me to be sustainable. So this is an activity that happens because someone is sustaining it, and unless you have of a higher stake in the society for you to be able to control this thing,
And
it's
the
not
government
easy.
cannot say they don't know.
They don't know. The government knows.
They know.
The government knows.
But Mheshimiwa, allow me to ask, now that we know what we know and you have clearly explained the situation very well, is it that people are not hearing from the elected leaders of that place in terms of even formulation of their own strategy? Because I would imagine that KDF ought to listen to you. I would imagine that the Ministry of Interior, whilst planning their deployment, ought to listen to you and other elected leaders from that area so that the plan that they have aligns with the realities on the ground.
We have had meetings, not once, not twice, several meetings, from the president down to everyone.
So where is the challenge?
The challenge is what Sidia said. You have to understand the society. The traditions are let me tell you, it is the way you are brought up. No, I cannot just come and impose today that you can't do this. It is a gradual, it's a painful process, but it must be done. Just like the way the warriors and the Somalis, they started by massacre in the Wagalas and the rest. Those people used to do everything. They are the only people in the whole world, in the whole Kenya, that can make their own bomb from their sitting in their villages. But today they are reorganizing themselves. But it is because of the efforts. By the way, there's a lot of infrastructure that has gone to the northern Kenya.
Yeah.
We have the roads. There never used to be roads. There's an open road from here all the way to Moyale, all the way to Ethiopia. The same thing should happen to Kerio valleys and the rest. We need a road. The Lapsed road that was suggested should go all the way to Nadapal and all the way to South Sudan, because it's an entry. That is where, so that we don't have these panya routes that people use to sneak in things and here and. But when we open up, it will take us less than 10 years. But the more we buy time and say this is a community. I mean, I have been a very tough critic of this, but until I went to the ground, I realized it's either I entertain this problem by speaking about it all the time and crying about it or whining, or I decide we have to sort it out. And the best way to sort out is every human being has extremes. You can be so good and can be so bad at the same time. But unless the government picks the good part, because not everyone in the society is going to be bad, very bad person, people. But we need the few who are good, or majority that are good, to be good to help us sort out this. And the best way to sort, just like the way the Somalis sort the Al-Shabaabs and the rest, is use the locals. Local solutions, local problems. And we are going to do the same. And the best, I have told the communities, and I've told the president, for me and my colleagues who are the likes of Agana, because we fight all the time, we will fight in boardrooms and avoid fighting in
out in community.
Because when you do that, we embolden one another.
It's true.
This community becomes tough. Everyone wants to say, it's my people and all those. We always fight. But at the end of the day, someone must sacrifice and sit and say, I have to be a source of solution.
And you're one of those who sacrifice.
Exactly.
It would be interesting to see over the next period, the things that you've talked about now, opening up of this space, educating folks who've decided that they don't want to get into it, and in using the local representatives to pass this message. Maybe we'll see a change.
Yes.
We'd like to call you back to see how that happens. And we're watching.
And we are having a supplementary budget, for instance. I sit in that budget.
Yeah.
And I talked to the president through our chair that we need to open up the security roads.
Yes.
And we have actually a budget that we have already allocated to that. And also those schools. In China, how they sorted out their problem is they did as concentrated schools and all those camps and put people there for a while. When you put these children for probably 3 years,
we'll see a difference.
We'll see a difference because they will get food. They will not go back and those and they will not
go back to that.
Is going to be minimized. And
Honorable Florence, all of us
want to have a better Kenya.
Indeed. Honorable Florence Jemtai Sergon, the Women Representative, Baringo County. Thank you for being our guest this morning. We'll keep up and follow and see how this goes. Thanks for being here on the show this morning. Good morning. It's 10 a.m.
Good morning. This is the News Wire. I'm Leah Obaga. President William Ruto and his cabinet have begun a 2-day retreat in Nairobi to assess the progress of his administration in the first 1 year in office. Cabinet members